Faites l'appel, s'il vous plaît, Madame le greffier.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Hélier. Madame le connétable de Saint-Laurent.
Présente.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Brelade.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de la Trinité.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Pierre.
Présent.
Madame le connétable de Saint-Martin.
Présente.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Jean.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Clément.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Gruville.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Ouen. Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Marie.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Sauveur. Monsieur le député Southern. Madame le député Labbé.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Tadier.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Luce.
Présent.
Madame le député Dublé. Monsieur le député Morin.
Présent.
Madame le député Lehegara. Monsieur le député Ayer. Monsieur le député Ward.
Présent.
Madame le député Alves.
Présente.
Madame le député Gardner.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Ghost.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Farnham.
Présent.
Madame le député Moore.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Mezek.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Joseph. Monsieur le député Balash. Monsieur le député Coles.
Présent.
Madame le député Poré.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Wall. Madame le député Miles.
Présente.
Madame le député Scott.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Renouf. Madame le député Curtis. Madame le député Feltham.
Présente.
Madame le député Binet. Madame le député Jeune. Madame le député Miller.
Présente.
Madame le député Howell.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Binet. Monsieur le député Ferry.
Présent.
Madame le député Kovac.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Curtis. Madame le député Ward.
Présente.
Madame le député Wilson. Madame le député Stevenson.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Andrews.
Monsieur le doyen.
Notre aide soit au nom de Dieu qui a fait les cieux et la terre. Amen. Seigneur Dieu Père éternel et tout-puissant, qui a établi le gouvernement et la puissance de la terre, pour le règlement et pour la conduite du peuple, et qui nous a commandé d'avoir toujours pour but la gloire de ton saint nom. Nous te prions qu'il te plaise de donner à cette assemblée le don de conseil de prudence, d'unir les cœurs et les affections de tous ceux qui la composent, de la conduire tellement toi-même par ton Saint-Esprit que toute leur délibération est accompagnée de ta bénédiction. Réussite au bien-être au soulagement du peuple, qu'il de plus de commettre à leurs soins. Car nous t'en prions au nom et par le mérite de ton Fils bien-aimé Jésus-Christ, notre Seigneur, qui nous a enseigné de t'invoquer en disant: Notre Père, qui es aux cieux, ton nom soit sanctifié, ton règne vienne, ta volonté soit faite sur la terre comme au ciel. Donne-nous aujourd'hui notre pain quotidien, et nous pardonne nos offenses, comme nous pardonnons à ceux qui nous ont offensés. Et ne nous envoie pas en tentation, mais délivre-nous du mal, car à toi est le règne, la puissance et la gloire, au siècle des siècles. Amen.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Hélier.
Defoe.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Ouen.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Sauveur.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Southern.
Would it be possible for Deputy Southern to be marked excusé as he's supporting a family member after a medical procedure?
Thank you. Do members agree that Southern can be marked excusé? Yes, excusé.
Madame le député Dublé. Vous jurez que Madame la députée Dublé est tellement indisposée qu'elle ne peut pas assister aux états sans exposer sa santé.
Malade.
Monsieur le député Joseph.
Ma'am, Deputy Joseph is away following a bereavement, and I hope members will agree to mark him as excusé.
Members content to mark Deputy as excusé? Yes, thank you very much. Excusé.
Monsieur le député Balash.
Sir, Deputy Balash is out of the island, not on State's business. I ask that he be marked as excusé, sir.
On what basis?
It is at rather short notice that he's had to move out of the island, sir. Go out of the island for a few days.
Could you tell us a little more about this, Deputy?
Yes, sir. I'm not aware of any other circumstances other than that he has had to leave the island for a few days for family reasons, sir.
All right. Members content to mark Deputy as excusé?
So is it a family emergency, and under those circumstances it would seem appropriate?
It is, sir.
Members content? Yes, thank you very much. Excusé.
Madame la députée Binet.
Madame,
Present.
okay.
Madame la députée Jeune.
Present.
Les États sont constitués. On behalf of members, I'd like to welcome His Excellency, the Lieutenant Governor, to the Chamber this morning. I would now like to pay tribute to two recently departed former members of this Assembly. Hugh Raymond was born in Bristol. He had a varied career, having previously been a history teacher, an area manager for the Cheltenham and Gloucester Building Society. He served as a councillor on Cheltenham Borough Council and was chair of the Cheltenham Chamber of Commerce. He was chair of both independent and state schools in England. He moved to Trinity in 1995. He was the chair of the Jersey Sports Council and on the committee of the Race Club. He was a long-standing member of the Honorary Police, a Trinity Centenaire, and president of the Honorary Police Association. He was elected as Deputy of Trinity in 2018 and appointed to a number of ministerial positions, serving as Assistant Minister for Infrastructure and also for Health and Social Services, and particularly as Assistant Minister for Economic Development, Tourism, Sport and Culture. He was one of the first members to join the Jersey Alliance Party and had to step back from the last election campaign owing to ill health. But he was in attendance as a special guest when the new skate park facility opens at Lake Kennevay on the 4th of February this year, and he was one of the main driving forces behind this important new initiative for young people. Our thoughts are with his widow Kay and the rest of his family at this sad time. Derek Ryder Maltwood was born in Jersey in 1939. He was educated outside the island and became a stockbroker before becoming elected senior partner in the stockbroking firm Trevor Matthews and Carey. During that time, he was president of the Institute of Directors and instrumental in creating the IOD Work Shadow Scheme, which has benefited many young people over the last 36 years, giving them an insight into the business world. He was first elected to the States in 1987 as Deputy of St Mary and subsequently re-elected 4 times, twice unopposed. He was very active on a number of committees, including Public Services, post-administration, and was president of the House Committee and the Jersey Transport Authority. His main service was as vice president of the Finance and Economics Committee, a role he performed for 12 years, from 1990 until 2002. For some of that time, he was also president of the Harbours and Airports Committee from 1998 to 2002, when he retired from the States. Since the announcement of his death has been received, those who worked alongside him have paid tribute in the media to his exceptional leadership skills and his calm and positive approach. He was a keen golfer and in retirement remained very busy and served the island in a variety of capacities. As Honorary Treasurer for Durrell, as a board member of the JEC for some 20 years, 10 as chairman, on the Jersey Heritage Trust Board of Trustees, as chair of Jersey Opera House Limited, and also as a Procureur du Bien Public for the parish of St Mary. He retained a strong interest in Ireland life and politics, making his feelings known about electoral reform when giving evidence to a scrutiny hearing in 2017. He was predeceased by his wife Maggie in 2020, and our thoughts are with their children and grandchildren at this time. I invite members to stand and observe a silence to reflect on these two members. May they rest in peace. Returning now to the consolidated order paper, there are a number of enactments under B. A number of matters have been laid or presented under C, and the following matters have been lodged under D. P12, Draft Commissioner for Children and Young People Amendment of Law Regulations, lodged on the 24th of March by the Chief Minister. P13, Regulation of Estate Agents, lodged on the 28th of March by Deputy Andrews. P13, Amendment, Regulation of Estate Agents Amendment, lodged on the 11th of April by the Council of Ministers. P14, Development Levies, lodged on the 28th of March by Deputy Kovacs. P14, Development Levies Amendment, lodged on the 11th of April by the Council of Ministers. P15, Jersey Homes Trust Rent Increase Assistance Scheme, lodged on the 28th of March by Deputy Southern. P16, Draft Probate Amendment Jersey Law, lodged on the 31st of March by the Chief Minister. P17, La Collette Waste Management Site Development Plan, lodged on the 6th of April by the Minister for Infrastructure. P18, Rent Control Measures, lodged on the 11th of April by Deputy Mezek. P19, Health and Community Services Interim Board, lodged on the 11th of April by the Minister for Health and Social Services. P20, Draft Control of Housing and Work, Residential and Employment Status Amendment Number 2 Regulations, lodged on the 11th of April by the Chief Minister. Nothing under E, or F, or G, or H. There are a number of written questions, 40 in total. And we now come to oral questions.
Sir,
With notice. Yes, Chief Minister.
I sent an email, I think yesterday, to States members asking whether they might wish me to make my statement earlier on in today's session so that they can focus on other matters in questions without notice or not, as is their preference. And so I thought this might be a timely point to ask that question as to which approach States members would like to take.
So this is the statement you propose to make currently under K, is that right? And the proposition you make, is it that we take that statement now or simply after oral questions, but before questions without notice to ministers? What's the proposition that you make?
That we take this ahead of, I think in the email it suggested ahead of oral questions, but I'm happy, it really is a matter for members as to whether they would prefer that or ahead of questions without notice or not.
Yes, but you must make a proposition. You must, so the members know what we're going to debate. Do you want to deal with it now?
We can deal with it now, so if that's what members wish.
Yes. Is that seconded? Yes. Deputy Tadia, who wishes to speak on this proposition?
So I'm not sure how the tradition of ordering the order paper in the way it is has grown up, but clearly K normally comes after I in the Jersey and in the English alphabet anyway, and it seems to me that we're falling into a new tradition of moving ministerial statements to the beginning of the order paper or nearer to the beginning. I'm not sure for whose convenience, and so whilst it is correct that the Assembly should arrange its business as it sees fit in a way that's convenient for the Assembly, if it's a matter of habit now that statements are wishing to be made before oral questions with notice, which I note that members and ministers will have prepared for coming into the Assembly expecting. I know members have to leave at certain points during the day to deal with perhaps matters that arise, etc., for a few minutes here and there. And I think it is fairly disruptive, generally speaking, to move the order without good reason. So I would ask the Assembly to consider whether it's a matter of such urgency that we need to take the statement first. And of course, if we do it today, I would ask that the Privileges and Procedures Committee look in future to moving K to where I is now and moving I to where K is in future so that we can deal with all ministerial statements earlier rather than later. Of course, the advantage there would mean that we could have a second bite of the cherry at asking questions, perhaps questions without notice based on statements, but I don't think that's the intention generally, sir. So I just say that not as somebody who's instinctively conservative, sir, but I think we shouldn't necessarily, if we continue to tamper with the order paper on an ad hoc basis over and over again, we should consider doing that more permanently so we all know where we stand in future.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Farnham.
I just wondered, sir, following on from the previous speaker, that if I might make a counter proposition that we stick to the order as defined on the order paper, sir.
You simply vote against the proposition, don't you, in that situation? You simply vote against the proposition.
Oh, okay, sir. If that's...
Yes.
That's what you want. Okay,
That's
thank
what
you.
you want to do. Yes, Deputy Rob Ward.
So I just wondered whether we're going to be sent the statement in advance, because it is, we have been previously sent the statements by email or in some form, unless I've missed it, and if I have, I apologise.
I've not seen it. The Grefio tells me that it's been circulated or it's being circulated soon. Well, how will be? How soon is soon? Because anyway, there it is. Does anyone wish to speak on this proposition by the Chief Minister? Accordingly, I close the debate and invite the Chief Minister to reply. Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. It really is a matter for members as to their preference. I simply thought that I would propose this in order if members felt that it was helpful. If they feel that it is not helpful, that's absolutely their call, sir, and so I look forward to their decision.
Thank you. Is the appel called for?
Yes.
Yes. The appel is being called for, and the proposition is that the Chief Minister's personal statement, currently listed to be made at K. Sorry, forgive me, not personal. It's not a statement on a matter of official responsibility, namely the statement she's proposed to make on appointing an interim chief executive and the head of the public service, be taken now and not when it was due to be taken on the order paper. I invite the greffier to open the voting. If all members have had the opportunity of casting their votes, either in the chamber or remotely, then I ask the greffier to close the voting. And the proposition has been adopted, 25 votes for, 13 votes contra, and 2 abstentions. Chief Minister, has your statement been circulated?
Oh, well, I believe it has, sir.
Yes, I think it has.
Yeah.
Yes.
Apologies, we did send it a little earlier this morning. Thank you, sir. I wish to make a statement as we embark on our search to recruit an interim chief executive. Before I do, I would like to place on record my thanks to Suzanne Wiley for her dedication to leading the public service. Many of us have seen firsthand the time commitment that she has given to her work. She has been popular and a steady influence during the transition between government and to the public service following years of change. It now turns to us all, sir, to continue to focus on delivery for islanders and to provide a smooth transition to new leadership for the public service. The role of Chief Executive has, without question, been subject to much discussion, and it is quite usual with any senior level resignation. It is right to take time to pause and to think about whether the role needs redefining to meet present and emerging needs. I'm considering this along with colleagues from the public sector, ministers and non-executive members. The outgoing Chief Executive has also contributed to this process, offering her own helpful insight. The resignation of a CEO impacts upon the dynamics of an organisation, and naturally it is my priority and my responsibility to ensure that we provide stability to the public service as we go forward to recruit a replacement. I have huge respect for our colleagues across the civil service, and I appreciate that there may be concerns about any subsequent changes that may take place. The public service has recently endured significant change over a prolonged period of time, and there is no intention to create such uncertainty again. It is also critical that, as a government, we do not become distracted from the agenda that we have been elected to deliver for our community. Equally, it is important to think carefully and with objectivity about how the role can be delivered successfully in the future with the right conditions to ensure the best outcomes for islanders. The way forward, therefore, has 3 elements. Firstly, the recruitment of an interim appointment. Secondly, taking time to review whether any high-level changes are required to the office. And then the recruitment of a permanent successor. The process for the recruitment of an interim will begin immediately, with tenders going out to recruitment agencies this week, which will include local agencies. It is being overseen by the Jersey Appointments Commission, and I'm keen to see the membership of the selection panel for the role broadened to include additional independents and individuals with a more local perspective and involvement than has previously been the case. The role description is being worked on and will be in the public domain once the recruitment process starts. I want to be absolutely sure, sir, that it reflects what the priorities for the interim role are, which will include supporting the Council of Ministers by offering clear advice and ensuring our priorities for the island are delivered, supporting the senior leadership in delivering improvement of our services and governance so that our fine public services can run smoothly and efficiently and concentrate on doing what they are trained to do in terms of protecting and supporting the public. Reviewing the number of direct reports to the Chief Executive and to make the leadership model more manageable, and preparing the organisation to move into the new Cyril Lamarcond House. This is an opportunity to further develop and modernise our culture and working practices, for example, moving to a paper-free environment. I'm pleased to say, sir, that there have been many expressions of interest in the role of interim from talented local people, and I hope that others who are considering how they can contribute to public life of the island will put themselves forward for consideration, whether they be from the public or private sectors. This process should be complete by the beginning of June to enable some time for the interim to be in place in order for a good handover before the current CEO leaves to take up her role at the beginning of July. Turning to the recruitment of the substantive successor, this process will also be subject to the oversight of the Jersey Appointments Commission, and many of the same considerations will apply. The aim is to commence the recruitment process soon, and I hope that we can use much of the work undertaken for the interim role as a basis for this. At this stage, it's difficult to say much more about the process or timeline. However, it is likely to take between 6 and 12 months before a permanent chief executive is in place. This allows for time, if required, for any candidate to serve any notice period in their current role. The other element related to the recruitment of the chief executive is the review of any high-level changes required within the organisation. The successful delivery of government rests, of course, on the skills, motivation, energy and infrastructure of the whole of the organisation. Now is the time to ensure that we put in place key corporate arrangements that provide the accountability that islanders were calling for at the election. Equally, it is evident that a small, well-focused corporate management board is needed to support the CEO. Looking back at the words of the former interim chief executive as he reflected on his time in Jersey, he told the Chamber of Commerce that there are considerable opportunities for improved efficiency and value for money. In my statement to the Assembly when seeking to become Chief Minister Designate, I set out that I would create a Cabinet Office and increase the accountability of departments to their ministers. This followed recommendations that had been made by the former PPC's Democratic Accountability Subcommittee, which conducted a review and made a report. The Cabinet Office should be a direct support function to the Council of Ministers, not just another department of government. This will require leadership that is focused on a culture of service to ministers, not distracted by heavy corporate or operational systems. With significant delivery departments such as health, education and children's services as well, the role of the Chief Executive spends a considerable amount of time on operational matters. This can be detrimental to the time available for strategic thinking and policy research and development. So in 1971, the late Colin Powell, a much respected public servant for over 40 years, published his Economic Survey of Jersey. This was to be one of the most significant economic papers for the island. This forensic, evidence-based, challenging and daring thought leadership is needed now as it was then. The island requires entrepreneurship in all sectors at a time of significant change and challenge. This thinking should be within the Cabinet Office, led by ministers and informed by the best intellect from the island and around the world. As ministers, we're accountable for our policies, and it is only right that we're given the tools to implement them effectively and quickly. Members who have served in scrutiny before will understand how they've become more effective through the additional investment in the state's GREF to provide support, research, communications and secretariat functions. Improvement that I advocated for when I was president of the Scrutiny Liaison Committee. We're a relatively small organisation, sir, but complex in how we work and what we deliver. This requires good governance, strong performance management, and clear lines of accountability. It also requires focus. The CEO should be able to focus on operational excellence, ensuring that there are the right strategies, systems, and processes in place to provide assurance around the outcomes and delivery that are critical to operating a well-oiled machine. I think we all have our own experiences when we meet our constituents that the machine needs repair and TLC in some areas, and that they require a technician who knows what to do. Recent events create the right moment to shape this key role, to create the right conditions for serving the government and, in turn, the whole of the island. It is my ambition, sir, that by getting the next sequence of actions right, a successful structure will emerge that will be both effective and enduring for the island. So this statement has intentionally focused on the future. What is important now is how we take the island forward and attract the best candidates who can work with us and make a long-term commitment to Jersey and our mission of creating a community where everyone can thrive. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief Minister. We now move to 15 minutes of questions, and the first question is from Deputy Farmer.
Thank you, sir. Does the Chief Minister consider that any aspect of her own conduct contributed to the resignation of the Chief Executive?
So no, I do not. The Chief Executive gave her reasons for her resignation in her letter, which has been shared publicly.
Supplementary, please.
Yes.
In which case, sir, would she consider that any of the conduct of any of her fellow ministers or assistant ministers might have contributed to the resignation of the Chief Executive?
So the answer would be exactly the same. No.
Thank you. Deputy Sedio.
Thank you, sir. The Chief Minister has chosen to frame her statement very much in a way that looks at systemic problems in the role of the Chief Exec Officer. But these have only happened post-fact. So when the Chief Exec resigned and left, it's only then that the Chief Minister says, oh, there's an issue with the role rather than a personality issue. Does she accept that, as has been said by one of her own senior ministers, that there were actually personality issues and that there were some ministers in her Council of Ministers who found it difficult to work with the Chief Exec, or rather who seemed to make her life difficult, and also perhaps that there was an element of British xenophobia within some of her Council of Ministers. We've heard the word local used 3 times in the desire to recruit a local candidate with a local perspective. Is there a push within her Council of Ministers to perhaps pander to those in our community who are actually xenophobic towards the English and the British?
Chief Minister.
Of English descent myself, I would entirely refute those final suggestions. That's completely news to me. Taking the first point of the Deputy's question, I think it's important to say that the Council of Ministers is a diverse group of people who have different views. I believe that the Minister for Infrastructure made his comments before seeing the letter of resignation from the Chief Executive, and I think he is alone in the Council of Ministers in holding the view that he shared with the public.
And does the Chief Minister mentioned reasons given in a resignation letter? Does the Chief Minister acknowledge that in the real world, what people put on public record for everybody to see isn't necessarily always the delicate reasons that might be playing out in the background which might cause somebody over a period of time to reconsider their position. We are, after all, dealing with somebody who's very high profile, very experienced, and I know that many of her current ministers spoke very highly of her, who had to give up her home, come to a small island in the south of, in the Channel, as we know, and no doubt make many sacrifices. Does she take into account that actually the real reasons may not be in the public domain for her resignation?
Sir, the reasons given are those stated in the resignation letter, and I have no reason to consider otherwise. I believe that this is an employment matter. We have a duty of care to an employee, whatever level within the organisation they may hold, and we all make sacrifices for public service. I think members here all share and understand exactly what that means, sir. But I would ask members to consider the duty of care that we have towards an employee when considering their reasons, whatever they may be, other than those stated in a letter of resignation.
Thank you, Chief Minister. Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. Sir, the Chief Minister has mentioned in her statement a split in the role of the, or potential split in the role of CEO between advisor to ministers and a more executive role for the organisation. Does she, and this was one of the recommendations in what's known as the Democratic and Accountability Government report, does the Chief Minister agree that these recommendations, not having been approved by the States Assembly, should be approved by the States Assembly before implementation? And does she consider it's possible, or does she, and has she lined up potentially a replacement or a new cabinet advisor amongst existing senior civil servants, despite their associations with a poor culture that doesn't know what good is?
Thank you, Deputy Chief Minister.
Well, I thank the Deputy for those many questions, and I'll endeavour to answer all of them. So with regard to the Democratic Accountability Report, there are a series of recommendations, and I believe it's for everyone to consider those recommendations and take action as they see fit. Indeed, the Corporate Services Scrutiny Panel have on occasions asked about some of those recommendations, and I've given my answers as best I could in light of the situation. Of course, this time now, as the Chief Executive identified in her letter, identifies an opportunity to redefine the role and take into account the recommendations of that Democratic Accountability Report now that we have the opportunity to do so. And that is what we are doing, and it is right to take that moment to pause and reflect how those recommendations can be built into progressing the role and the organisation forwards. Unfortunately, the second part of the Deputy's question, perhaps I could ask her if I've adequately answered.
Yes.
Sir, I'm not sure the Chief Minister has adequately answered my first question, which was whether the States Assembly shouldn't be approving these recommendations in the DAGS report before they're implemented. But in terms of the second question, it was whether we might, whether she is lining up a new advisor, a separate advisor of the Minister amongst the current civil servants, notwithstanding their association with a poor culture that does not know what good is.
Thank you, Deputy, and thank you, Assembly, for giving me the time to listen again. So I stand by my first answer in terms of recommendations and giving consideration to them, which is the proper process. And in relation to lining anybody up for any particular role, of course, we will go through, if new roles are defined, we will go through the appropriate recruitment processes, and I would expect to see an open process dealt with through the Jersey Appointments Commission if that is the decision and the route that is taken.
Thank you. Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Does the Chief Minister consider that the combined facts that we now have 3 CEOs who have left in recent years in circumstances surrounding which there is a lot of conjecture, along with the fact that one of her senior ministers has described her own explanation as to why the current CEO has departed as disingenuous, so a term which you wouldn't allow to be used if it were used in this assembly, will have an impact on the recruitment process for CEO if it's not addressed and some form of independent investigation take place into the allegations that have been made so that we can have confidence that they have been dealt with properly rather than simply denied.
I said earlier, sir, that the Minister is alone in the Council of Ministers in having that view, and I stand by that, sir. I don't think there's any need for an independent investigation. It is simply a difference of opinion. Sir, taking the wider context of the number of chief executives that we have had in recent years, I think sometimes there are people and circumstances that collide and don't work. Not all of our decisions in life in any respect work, and so people sometimes take necessary changes to deal with those, and each of those sets of circumstances have been individual to that particular time, period and people. And so what I think is important is that we move forward and that we find the right fit for the right time and offer the island an opportunity to deliver on the outcomes that we have promised to the electorate that we will deliver upon. That's what is important. That is why we asked people to go out to vote last June. And I think we should all focus on doing that. And of course, we need to make sure that the operational aspect of the organisation that supports us in doing so is working at its absolute optimum.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Does the Chief Minister think that we will get the best candidates and ultimately the best person recruited for this role when there continues to be such conjecture which the Chief Minister simply insists on brushing off rather than taking any tangible action to demonstrate that accusations which have not just been made by a senior minister, but also by, we're told, senior people working in the civil service, that there are greater problems than the Chief Minister seems to be prepared to accept that there are?
Sir, I would take any suggestion of a poor culture very seriously. In fact, when I chaired the Corporate Services Scrutiny Panel, we led a review into people and culture. It's part of my personal leadership, and it is part of our government's approach. We have adopted the values of the organisation, and one of those is, of course, I am respectful. I have also asked that we invite HR Lounge to return to the island to conduct a follow-up on the work that they have done previously, to take their own independent view of the culture and of the organisation. And I think that that is the right way to approach it. In terms of the comments and the suggestion that there have been whistleblowers, I think it's equally been suggested that perhaps those were not genuine. But of course, we have a process that is in place. It is a well-known process, and there's a Commissioner for Standards also, and anybody who has genuine concern is open to pursuing any of those avenues. The final part of the Deputy's question, sir, was about a recruitment and whether the role would attract any attention or interest whatsoever. I mentioned in my statement that we have already heard from people who are showing an interest in taking on the role of interim, and I think that that is really pleasing. These are really high quality people who want to serve the island and who care deeply about the island and its future, and I think that is a really exciting opportunity, and I look forward to seeing who else may come forward through this process.
Thank you, Chief Minister. Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Chief Minister, so I must say, I think it's disappointing that we didn't have the statement in advance when we knew it was going to happen. So I noted down that the Chief Minister said this would make leadership, leadership model more manageable. I would quote from the statement, but scanning through it so quickly, having just seen it, is difficult. Can I ask the Chief Minister, more manageable by who?
I think what I said in the statements was it's about the number of reports to the Chief Executive, and that is something that has been fed back to us from the current incumbent, that there's a request that we look at the number of direct reports, because anyone who's held a senior leadership role such as that will consider that 13 is simply an unmanageable and difficult to manage number.
Parliamentary?
Yes, thank you, sir. So can I ask Chief Minister then, are we looking at the current lines of accountability going to a lower level of the structure, or to simply to ministers and cutting those structures out completely? Thank you, sir.
Well, as I said, we have a complex organisation that delivers a variety of services to the public in the most part, and also to ministers in the executive part. And that is what is under consideration now as we consider how we best move forward. And of course, in the first instance, and I think the Deputy is very familiar with the work of the Democratic Accountability Subcommittee, we look to that document for some guidance and insight. That certainly talked about a Cabinet Secretary and a Cabinet Office, I think, and so that is why those considerations are taking place.
Thank you, Chief Minister. Conor St Lawrence.
Sir, I wouldn't have used the same words, but Deputy Tadger asked my question earlier.
Yes, the period of 15 minutes has expired, but under Standing Order 68, 3A, a member of the States may propose without notice the time allowed for questions be extended by 15 minutes. Is that proposed?
Yes, sir, can I propose that?
Seconded? Yes, sir. Any observations on that? In that case, the time is extended. Deputy Feltham. Conor, did you weren't asking a question, were you? No. Deputy Feltham, yes.
Thank you, sir. Having met the CEO a few times in my capacity as Chair of Public Accounts Committee, my view is that it's unlikely that a decision to leave her role would have been taken lightly. And she is obviously very well regarded by her colleagues and ministers. In any normal work situation where you do have a good rapport with the people that you're working with, the idea of resigning may well be discussed before a resignation letter is handed in. Can the Chief Minister confirm whether any discussions were held with the CEO prior to her handing in her resignation letter, and what steps the Chief Minister took in order to try and avoid this situation and keep a person who appears to be a highly competent individual in the employment of the States of Jersey?
Sir, the first I knew of the Chief Executive's decision to resign was when she met with myself and the Vice Chair of the States Employment Board and told us of her intention.
Yes, please. Can the Chief Minister confirm the date of that meeting?
That was the 14th of March, sir.
Yes, Deputy Luce.
Thank you, sir. And Deputy Felton sort of beat me to it because I was going to ask the same question. But can I ask the Chief Minister, sir, it was obviously then a surprise that she received the letter of resignation. Did she make any effort at all to work with a current CEO to try to resolve the issues and to persuade her to stay?
Chief Minister.
Sir, on this occasion, it was made quite clear that this was the decision and there was no moving from it.
Is that a no then, sir?
Sir, there have been many conversations with the Chief Executive since that time, and her view is clear.
Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. The Chief Minister has made multiple references to the PPC Democratic Accountability Subcommittee and their recommendation that the Cabinet Office ought to be led by a Cabinet Secretary rather than the CEO. Could I ask the Chief Minister why this was not done in the first place when the Cabinet Office was set up, and what views, if any, the Chief Executive had given to the Chief Minister about the CEO's role in leading that part of the public service?
Well, the person that I have been working with is the Chief Executive, and they were employed to be both the head of the public service and the lead person to advise the Council of Ministers. It is still the view that the Chief Executive could and may fulfil both of those duties. And of course, I have had a duty to the person in that role, and I was very careful in expressing my answers to you in the Corporate Services Scrutiny Panel questions that you yourself have put to me in the past.
Through the chair.
Duties that the Deputy has put to me.
Yes, supplementary.
So I'd remind the Chief Minister who's in charge of the island. It is the elected Chief Minister, not the unelected Chief Executive. And if the Chief Minister decided to abide by the recommendation of that PPC subcommittee and establish a Cabinet Secretary, she's within her rights to do so. Did the Chief Minister make any attempts to reshape the role of CEO earlier on in her term of office along the lines that all of a sudden now she can't appear to want to talk about anything other than, when this hasn't been done in the months of her leadership so far?
Sir, I think the Deputy will understand, he has a good grasp of the law, that a person is employed to fulfil duties and therefore any change to those duties would have to be handled in a certain way so as not to break that employment law and the duty that we have to people who have been employed to conduct the role that they have been employed to take on. So we have, of course, discussed how the Cabinet Office can best function within those roles and responsibilities.
Thank you, Chief Minister. Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. In her answering, the Chief Minister has suggested 13 isn't really a manageable number. And I was just wondering if the Chief Executive had expressed any views regarding the numbers of people that might be managed in an organisation, bearing in mind that, like me, many people on the island have been members of partnerships that have at least 20 people, that there are people who actually manage organisations of many thousands of people, and whether she expressed a view in terms of her contract of employment and its in non-alignment with the suggested role of or changing role of the Chief Executive.
Chief Minister.
These conversations are still underway. I think what's really important and what we must all focus on, and we're certainly committed to achieving, is delivering the best outcomes for the public and ensuring that the public service is running at its optimum. And that, of course, ensures that the structure at the top is right and well managed and easy to manage, and that people are clear in what they're there to do, to deliver for the public, and we are focused on finding the best way forward.
Supplementary?
Yes, sir. So could I just be clear, had the Chief Executive expressed a role about her ability to manage the role of Chief Executive as it is currently defined or not?
So this issue has come to light since the resignation letter was received. I think the contents of that letter identify the opportunity to redefine the role, and therefore conversations have ensued since that.
Deputy Farnham.
Thank you, sir. Could the Chief Minister explain why she publicly stated she was only verbally informed of the resignation of the CEO after a meeting on the 14th of March, and further stated that the resignation was only confirmed in writing the following week, sir. And then subsequently stated that she was informed verbally and in writing on the very same day, namely, sir, the 14th of March. Why did she give that wrong information, sir?
So I've already stated publicly that I became muddled and was not clear about those very detailed aspects of the situation. You will appreciate, sir, that there were many events occurring at that time. And as soon as I recognised that there had been a lack of clarity in my statements, then I put it right. And I did that at the earliest possible convenience.
Supplementary.
So in relation, sir, I'm not sure this relates to, as a supplementary, so light on him, try and ask another one if I may.
Connétable and Brennan.
Thank you, sir. Given that we are now looking at Chief Executive Incumbent number 6 going ahead, would the Chief Minister agree that it would be useful to bring in the former chief executives, probably 4 of them now, who've held the role, to gauge their views on how the new job might be shaped? Because clearly there is an issue going forward, and I would support the reshaping of the role, but I also think it's important to use the expertise of those who've gone before. Would she confirm that? Thank you, Chief Minister.
I thank the Constable for an excellent suggestion. We have received input from one former chief executive, formerly Sir John Mills, I think I can say that, and I would be happy to engage with any others who wanted to share their views and experiences so that we can define the best way forward to best serve the public of the island.
Supplementary, please.
Yes.
And in addition to that, so will she be consulting with the Appointments Commission, who of course are responsible for the appointment through the SEB, I presume? Thank you, sir.
The Appointments Commission are engaged in this process already, and they are currently assisting us in that process as it gets started.
Thank you, Chief Minister. Deputy Tadier.
Thank you, sir. This may not be my view, but I've heard it said outside the Assembly that when the Chief Minister missed the last Assembly because she had been invited to a dinner in London with, I believe, an ambassador, that it was good timing. And of course, that led to a situation which meant that the Deputy Chief Minister, in the opinion of some in the Assembly, misled the Assembly when he said that he knew of no resignations, when he, of course, did know a week before. To clear up any suspicion, would the Chief Minister clarify when she was invited to when she received the invite to go to London for that dinner, and will she circulate it?
I would be happy to circulate the date of that invitation because I cannot recall what it is at the top of my head right now. It was at some time in advance of the sitting. So I think it's really important to say that generally questions without notice are completed before lunch at the moment. And on that particular occasion, it fell that there was an appointment to a panel and that threw the timing out. And when I recognised that that timing was going to be an issue, I asked the Assembly if they would kindly bring questions without notice forward so I had every opportunity to conduct questions without notice myself ahead of having to travel for my pre-arranged meeting.
Thanks. I recognise that and I look forward to the information. Following on from that, sir, given the fact that the Deputy Chief Minister was therefore deputising for the Chief Minister, does she think it's credible that when he was asked by Deputy Farnham about whether he was aware of any future possible resignations that we could expect, he joked, first of all, that it might be his own resignation, even though he's not a member of the Health Department, and he said that he wasn't aware of any. Is it credible that the response given on behalf of the Chief Minister's office was that he thought the question related to health officials when there was nothing in the question that actually indicated that that should be the case, bearing in mind his own joke?
Sir, the Deputy Farnham's question began with, in regard to the Health Department. And I think it was absolutely rational. Indeed, the bailiff, I believe, has provided his own opinion that objectively the question was in relation to the Health Department.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Chief Minister, is it not simply the fact that underlying this rather generic statement that's been made today is an admittance that the officers within the government are too powerful and are driving the agenda rather than ministers due to a void in actual policy of elected members?
Chief Minister.
Sir, I think that ministers are there to direct and to deliver policy, and that is what we're accountable for. That is what I said in my statement. I believe that we have a good number of policies from all of our collective manifestos, and together we are quite capable of reaching a view and finding the best way forward. And we are really pleased to be the public in the room on those occasions to debate and discuss the best way forward and to find what we collectively agree to be the best way forward to serve the island.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. And so the Minister is saying, in terms of the relationship of power and influence over the direction of policy, can the Chief Minister state what proportion is coming from officers and what proportion are coming from individual ministers in each individual ministry?
It's not something that I have any opportunity to calculate proportions, despite the Deputy's scientific bent, of course. There is a structure within which we work, and we do our best to deliver within that structure.
The last question within the allotted time will come from the Connotab of St Clement.
Thank you, sir. Would the Chief Minister agree that it's highly unusual to let a highly regarded individual, Chief Executive, go without some form of a fight? I.e., what can we do for you? What would you like? Would you like greater secretariat? What can we do? But to just say, you've resigned, okay, thanks very much, bye.
That isn't a laughing matter, and so it's a reasonable question, and I thank the Constable for it. Of course, there is a huge amount of disappointment in this, but the terms are such that it is a definitive decision. And yes, of course, there have been discussions about what else could happen. But we are where we are, sir, and the best thing now for the island is to learn from this experience, to take the advice and good counsel of our outgoing Chief Executive, and to work out how best we can move forward and deliver for islanders.
Thank you, Chief Minister. That concludes the period of time allotted for questions in relation to the statement. We now move on to oral questions with notice, and the first question, Deputy Farnham, will put to the Chief Minister. Deputy Farnham.
Thank you, sir. And can I thank the Chief Minister for taking this question? It perhaps could have gone to the Health Minister, but will the Chief Minister provide the Assembly with an update on matters relating to PFOS and the historic plume in the St Juan's Bay area, and in particular, the outcomes of the health testing that was instigated, sir, by the previous government?
Thank you, Deputy. Chief Minister.
I'm pleased that this government has started to make some real progress in supporting and getting answers for islanders who have had their water polluted by PFOS. A total of 88 people were tested, and the results indicate that 30% of the people in the plume area had higher values than 95% of the people tested in a US reference pollution for PFOS. This increased by 70% of people tested for another PFAS compound. The implications of PFAS in blood on health is an emerging area of science and is highly specialised. In recognition of this, Public Health is setting up a scientific advisory panel who will provide advice and guidance to the government about what interventions should be undertaken to reduce the blood levels of PFAS, what the health harms might be, and to advise on environmental matters also. A chair has been appointed and recruitment is underway for panel members. The panel will have their first meeting in May. In addition, environmental studies are ongoing across 2 water catchment areas in St One's Bay and at Pontmarquet to assess PFAS migration, potential risks, and to inform additional management or remediation options. I've left my glasses at home, so I apologise. The study will work alongside and complement current work by Ports of Jersey to investigate and remediate PFAS and airport perimeter and inform public water treatment and supply work.
Supplementary?
Thank you, sir. And I welcome the fact that some plans are being formulated to provide advice and guidance to those impacted. And this might actually be a question for the Health Minister next time. What tangible support can the government give to those people who have been infected and do have high levels in their blood?
Well, as I identified in the answer there, sir, the health harms are as yet unknown, which is one of the reasons why we have created the scientific advisory panel with an eminent chair, but also, of course, the local people who have been engaging with public health, I think will be able to testify that we have a talented public health team led by Dr. Peter Bradley, and they have been very grateful for his wise input and any advice he's been able to give to date.
Thank you. I'll go on to the second question, which Deputy Tadier will ask of the Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. Will the Chief Minister advise what progress has been made in respect of the independent review into the unlawful search of premises allegedly linked to Roman Abramovich? Prior to the subsequent statement on the 24th of January 2023, when the decision to cancel this review was taken, and why it was cancelled, given that she had advised it would not impact on ongoing legal proceedings.
Chief Minister.
Apologies, sir. I'm struggling to find the right answer, but as the Deputy is aware, following my announcement, I discovered that I had a conflict. I was not aware of that at the time of calling for an independent investigation. Therefore, I have had to recuse myself, and I have had no further part in these discussions, which is why I offered to the Deputy that either the Deputy Chief Minister or Deputy Gorst might be better people to answer this question.
Supplementary?
So the Chief Minister is answering the question. There's nothing that legally or understanding orders prevents her from doing so. And whilst I will hopefully ask in due course about what that conflict of interest is, I don't want to use my supplementary question to do that. The supplementary question is, sir, what is it in that conflict of interest that prevents the Chief Minister from explaining or indeed delegating the request that she made back in November for an independent review to another one of her ministers? So, in other words, just because she believes she has a conflict of interest, which she thinks means that she can no longer take part in this, it was nonetheless her words and her decision to have an independent review. And will she explain why that independent review has not happened?
So I can only repeat elements from my first answer. When I called for an independent review, I was not aware that I had a conflict of interest. Since that time, and since learning of that conflict, I've both declared it and recused myself of it, of any further involvement. And therefore, I am not party to the discussions, and nor can I answer the Deputy's question.
Chief Minister, understanding Order 106, you are obliged to clearly state the nature of the conflict of interest.
With pleasure, sir. I believe it is a matter of, it was stated in a judgment that's been published by the court that my husband's firm acted for one of the parties, in this case, for a small number of days. And therefore, I consider that I have a conflict in this matter.
So when was the conflict of interest identified, please? That would be helpful.
I couldn't tell the deputy of the exact day, but that was raised with me at the earliest possible moment.
So I do have a point of order. The Chief Minister has answered a written question on this, and she's given actually the reasons why there wasn't an independent review in that written question, which was answered. She made a statement on the 24th of January, but only at the last sitting, in between the last sitting, I submitted a written question which has been answered on this very subject by the Chief Minister. So the argument that she's using now that she can't answer the question, which she's already answered in written form, is simply not viable, so simply not tenable, sir, and I'd like you to rule on that, as to whether the conflict of interest which she's declaring prevents her from answering an oral question which she's already answered in written format.
Well, Deputy, she has, the Chief Minister has responded the way she has. She's identified the conflict of interest, which she says prevents her from answering further. And I don't think I can make any further ruling in relation to that matter.
So the ruling I would like you to make, sir, is does that conflict of interest prevent her from answering understanding orders? Because I've been advised by the GREF, who I believe spoke to you, saying that there's nothing within the conflict of interest, because it's not financial, that prevents the Chief Minister from answering this question in an open and transparent way, as she would normally be required to do under the Code of Conduct.
Well, Deputy, you are correct in the sense that Standing Order 106 only prevents persons from voting when they have a financial interest. Members are entitled to ask questions and respond to questions, notwithstanding the existence of conflicts, as long as they identify the nature of that conflict. So the Chief Minister, if she wished and was able to answer the question, could answer the question. But what she said is that owing to the conflict, she is no longer involved in this particular issue, and therefore can't answer your question. That's my understanding of what she said. So you must make of that answer what you will, but the Chief Minister has identified the conflict and given an answer to this question in my judgment.
So those are my two questions. I wonder if there are any other questions from members.
Lady Bezic.
Thank you, sir. The Chief Minister has identified in part the nature of the conflicts, but could she further elaborate and say which party it was in this case that they were connected to?
Chief Minister.
Sir, I think you will have some sympathy that I do not know generally who my husband's clients are, and therefore I'm afraid I couldn't even recall which of the parties in this matter it was the client at that time.
A brief supplementary then, sir. Is that on the public record that can be found?
I believe it is, yes.
Thank you. Chief Minister, Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. The Chief Minister in her answer said that she had acted on a matter before finding out that she had a conflict of interest. What steps has she subsequently taken to ensure that she identifies potential conflicts of interest sooner, so that she isn't taking any actions on matters in which she has a conflict of interest?
Chief Minister.
I don't believe that I could do anything in a more expedient manner than I did.
Supplementary. Any further questions? Yes, Deputy Andrews.
Thank you, sir. What communications have taken place with the Assistant Chief Minister to take a lead on this? Because I'm a bit concerned in terms of looking at the time frame now. We are looking at a 6-month period where no action has actually been taken to make sure that some investigation is formally taken where there has been wrongdoing. Thank you, sir.
Sir, the Deputy Chief Minister and the Treasury Minister have both been dealing with this matter. I did offer Deputy Tadia the opportunity to ask the question of either of those ministers, and he declined. Therefore, I'm unable to answer because I do not have that information.
Final supplementary.
Yes, sir. First of all, sir, we will get to the bottom of this sooner or later, whether or not it requires a proposition to this Assembly to, in fact, have the independent inquiry that the Chief Minister said she wanted back in November. But can the Chief Minister explain why she was able to answer a written question that I put on the 12th of April, only a few days ago, which she has answered, but she isn't able to answer an oral question in this Assembly on that matter?
My understanding, sir, would be that that written question was provided by another person and agreed by another person and not myself. And perhaps there was an error in defining that in the answer, for which, of course, I regret.
Thank you, Chief Minister. The third question, Deputy Rob Ward will ask of the Minister for Children and Education. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. So, can I ask the Minister, given that teachers and lecturers have rejected the current pay offer proposed to them, will the Minister confirm whether or not she supports them in asking for a minimum cost of living pay rise, and if not, why not? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you for Deputy for his question. And sir, first of all, it's important to me to say that I recognise and appreciate the hard work and dedication of all our teachers and lecturers. And I have really enjoyed seeing firsthand the excellent work they do when I have visited school and Highlands College. I'm supportive of all trade unions requesting the pay increase they feel their members require, considering all relevant factors. As a deputy aware, negotiations are carried out between unions and the State's Employment Board, and they are not something that I'm part of.
Supplementary?
So I don't believe that answered the direct question that was put, but I'll try again. Does the Minister believe that the teaching and lecturing staff on this island are worth and should be given a least cost of living pay rise in her role as Minister for Education? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you for the supplementary question. I think it's an important point that my role as Minister for Children and Education is to bring policies for children and education. My role as a Minister for Children and Education, it's not to intercept negotiation between unions and the State's Employment Board. Saying this, I completely agree. Teachers and lecturers have unique role that really make difference in outcomes of the children and adults. And they use really skills and experience educated. I completely recognize their role. And as I mentioned previously, the unions are entitled to ask for whatever rise they think is appropriate for their members. All unions do this, and through the negotiation with State's Employment Board and others, they ballot their members, they come to the agreement, and I'm sure that might be the Deputy know more details about this negotiation than myself as a union member.
Thank you, sir. Of course, unions are entitled to make those claims, and ministers are entitled to come out and say, I support those claims, because I believe they would be helpful for me seeing my political ambitions through of having a sustainable workforce in education to serve the children of this island. So can the Minister for Children and Education say whether she supports the representatives of Jersey's teachers who are asking to safeguard their profession by having cost of living pay increases, and if she does support them, what representations has she made around the Council of Ministers table to achieve that?
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Deputy, for the question, and it's important to say that I'm questioned here as the Minister for Children and Education and not as a private member, and it's two different roles. It is important for me that my workforce will be valued, and I value my workforce, that my workforce will be, the workforce who deliver the best education for the children will be recognized. what's also important to mention that it's not black and white, because it's not just a number, and we are talking about terms and conditions for the annual negotiations. There are extra days, there are different supplements, there are lots of details within the negotiation, and it's not just the number. Because I'm not a party and I'm not aware about detailed negotiation, I urge both sides, and I know they're having meetings, follow this week and next week, to come together and to find, and I do make representation around the Council of Ministers table, and it's important that our teachers, as any other workforce as well, because I'm also worried for all workforce, and the states will be recognised and valued.
Yes,
thank you, sir. In 2019, the then Minister for Children proudly marched alongside Jersey's teachers as they demonstrated for more pay. That Minister was joined at the time by the person who's currently Chief Minister and the person who's currently Minister for Children and Education. Will the current Minister for Children and Education publicly come out in support of the representatives of the teachers who are fighting for their profession and say that she supports their argument for a cost of living pay rise?
As I previously mentioned, I support the full right of the teachers and their unions as their representative to ask whatever they feel that it's right, and there is a negotiation, and I will not interrupt in the middle of negotiation.
Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. As the Minister suggested, pay negotiations are complex, and I think she mentioned that things like supplementary allowances and there are all sorts of things that are part of that. Given that that type of negotiation could have an impact on the operations and functions of her department, does she think that ministers should have more of an involvement in the negotiations that impact their areas?
Thank you for the question, and I completely agree that the morale of the profession is affected by the pay negotiation. It's not the easy place to be. And the teachers and all school staff are completely committed employees that want the best of the outcome. This is the system. This is what we have in place. I'm not a member of the State's Employment Board. It's not in my remit. It's not the policy that I'm developing. And when it will be brought to the Council of Ministers, it will be brought eventually to the Council of Ministers, we would have the conversation. As the Deputy rightly recognised, the offer is complex. It's not just one number. It's lots of things that come together, and we need to see this as a package and not just a number.
Supplementary?
Quite rightly, it is particularly complex when it comes to teaching negotiations, and I myself have been party to some negotiations around teaching assistants as well. Would the Minister, and has the Minister made clear the impact to services that would happen if negotiations are prolonged or unsuccessful?
I really, really hope that the parties will come together, and I urge both parties to come together around the table and to find the way forward for the benefit of our children.
Yes, final supplementary.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, does she accept that any pay rise that is below inflation means that teachers and lecturers face a real-term cut in their earnings?
Minister.
As I said, I'm not sure what's the package that offered, and it can be complex and it can be meeting the demand. I don't know the package. When I'll know the details, it would be easier for us to discuss.
So can I just say, there was a very specific question about the effect of a below-inflation pay rise on income.
Yes, do you want to ask it again?
Yes, could I? Can I ask the Minister, you phoned me there, so, can I ask the Minister whether she accepts that a below-inflation pay rise will mean a real-term drop in incomes for anybody facing those pay rises? Perhaps that's better wording. Thank you, sir.
Yes, Minister.
As I answered previously, sir, It is very complicated, and I know there are several negotiations over several years, and different packages were offered. And as a combination, we need to sort combination over the years to say yes or no if it's real cut.
Thank you, Minister. The fourth question, Deputy Luce will ask of the Minister for Infrastructure. Deputy Luce.
Thank you, sir. So, given the imbalance in the provision of public sports facilities between the east and west of the island, will the Minister explain when this will be addressed and whether it will be through the delivery of a sports and wellbeing hub at La Rocquiere or another suitable site, so that islanders in the east have better and fairer access to public sports facilities to maintain their physical and mental well-being?
Minister.
Sir, if the Deputy would allow, I think that Deputy Stevenson would like to answer that as the Assistant Minister for Infrastructure with special responsibility for sports facilities.
Sorry, so I have spoken to the Minister about it. I presumed he would be his Assistant Minister. I don't see that Deputy Stevenson has any delegated responsibility for infrastructure.
Is that right? Is he not the Assistant Minister?
I do have delegated responsibility.
All right, in that case, you can ask the question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Through the Inspiring Active Places project team and in partnership with SIPES, we're continuing to develop a number of possible enhancements to sports facilities in the east of the island. A phased approach to developing a sport and wellbeing hub at La Rocquiere is now being considered to ensure the scale of the project can be managed within the capital resources of the government. The focus will be to provide a new sports centre and synthetic pitch which meets the needs of the school but is also available outside of school times for community use. Enhancements are also being considered at FB Fields to make the site more accessible and appealing to the local community while enhancing the sports facilities available.
Supplementary.
I thank the Assistant Minister for her answer, sir, and apologise again. Can I ask her, sir, she didn't mention swimming, but it's a huge number of people on this island struggling to access swimming in public baths. Is there any provision going to be made at La Rocquiere for public swimming facilities?
Thank the Deputy for his question. The school itself does not require a pool and therefore it's unlikely to include one at this stage, but there is the potential with a phased approach to perhaps consider the addition of a pool at the site in future.
Thank you. Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Assistant Minister responsibility, looking at the plans that were just mentioned, can I ask what is different about those plans that were already existed at La Rocquiere, because they seem very similar to me, and also what's the timescale for delivery of those facilities? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. So the difference in the proposed way forward currently is that it would be a staged approach rather than one large community wellbeing hub with two very distinct sides, one that would serve the community, one that would serve the school. This would be primarily focused on the school and then outside of school hours for community access. So it would be smaller in scale, which would also mean cheaper and, in my view, more realistic in the current climate and more deliverable. With the second part of the question, the scoping work is currently underway and I'd expect that we will have some more information as we build up to the government plan process on budgets and timescales in the coming months. I would say that it is a real priority that the school has a timescale that it can work to, and we need to really focus on delivering for the needs of this school, which really does require attention.
Supplementary?
Yes, thank you, sir. So can I confirm that the facility will be smaller but on the same sort of plan? And what's happened to the previous plans on which money was spent? And in terms of a timescale, I'll ask again, so we can look for it in this year's government plan to fund, but what's the timescale for delivery of a facility, given that it was already in place to be delivered within a time frame in the last iteration of this plan? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Yes.
The previous plans that were in place were very high-level outline plans that put a figure of something around about £71 million on the scale of the facility. So when I say that they will be smaller, it will be smaller and more deliverable in that aspect, given that times have changed since those outline numbers and plans were put together. Regard to timescale, I can only say that the work now trying to scope out exactly how that can happen and when it can be delivered will be put together, and I can come back to the Deputy as soon as we know more. But I would expect that we start to move forward as part of the government plan process and get some funding in place to start filling out those plans and providing more detail.
So can I just confirm there's not an actual date available at the moment?
Well, the Minister's given her answer. Yes, any supplementary, any other questions? Yes, Conor Tarver, St Martin.
Could I please ask the Assistant Minister to seriously look at the delivery of a pool and other facilities for the east of the island and focus on the needs and well-being of those who live in the eastern parishes and east of St Helier, because our needs are just as great as the needs of the west of the island, where all the sporting facilities seem to be. And we don't even have our eastern cycle track yet. So thank you.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, sir. And I very much take on board the Constable's points that are well made there. And it is recognised, and conversations are constantly being had as these discussions continue about the need to provide facilities in the east of the island. Just to pick up on the last point about cycle provision, I think a number of the projects we are currently looking at, including at FB Fields, will help to link together some of the cycle opportunities that there are. So I am very attuned to the points made, as are officers and those working on the projects.
Yes, please, Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Given the comments made by the Assistant Minister today, could she confirm what direction, if any, she has given officers with regard to sports facilities on the east of the island?
Thank you, sir. As I say, officers are working with colleagues in SIPES, specifically on the Larocchia project, and the Education Minister and I visited the school a few months ago and have worked together to bring a group of people together to provide some clarity and drive on this, and the direction has been that the school and its sports facilities needs to be a priority.
Supplementary?
Yes, sir. I don't believe that was a full answer. What specific actions has the Assistant Minister asked for, if any, from her officers regarding these facilities?
I will repeat it again, sir, and say that we have asked for the delivery of a project to provide much-needed sports facilities for Larocchia School in the east of the island that can be used for the community as well.
Thank you. Final supplementary, Deputy Lewis.
Thank you, sir. And I must say I'm a bit disappointed because my question was specifically about public sports facilities in the east of the island, and it's been dominated by the provision of educational sports facilities at Larocchia School. Can the Minister just confirm again for us, sir, she's now proposing for Larocchia a facility which will not be open to the public during school hours?
Yes.
That is the immediate priority with this project. The Deputy is correct. There is then the possibility to phase and provide further facilities in due course.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. The fifth question, Deputy Andrews will ask of the Minister for International Development. Deputy Andrews.
Thank you, sir. What confidence does the Minister have that the countries she deals with are liberal democracies? And is it policy that, where there is a change in the political leadership of a country through non-democratic means, no further overseas aid may be provided to that country?
Minister.
I thank the Deputy for his question. Almost none of the countries we operate in are liberal democracies by any objective standard. If we can find ourselves to working in countries that adhered only to our own standard of liberal democracy, In a lot of cases, we would not be able to assist the millions of people who need help the most. Indeed, in many cases, the destabilisation caused by a change in political leadership through non-democratic means can sometimes be a catalyst for a country needing humanitarian support. There is not, therefore, a policy where we would cease to provide aid to a country that is not, by our standard, a liberal democracy. It should be noted, however, that Jersey Overseas Aid, as a government donor, is quite unusual in that it does not provide bilateral assistance to other countries. We also take the Corruption Perception Index into account when choosing the countries to support, as well as the Humanitarian Development Index, therefore targeting countries with the greatest need where corruption is lowest. And we keep the countries we assist under continual review.
Thank you, Minister. Supplementary.
Thank you, sir. So where there is political instability that comes to fruition, what process is in place that the Minister will follow, and also her officers will follow that process too? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
We work with NGOs and with our due diligence and processes that we follow. Obviously, they're different if we are dealing with humanitarian disaster and emergency to our sustainable long-term projects. And we have processes in place, and I'd welcome anyone and the Deputy to come and we can give you a detailed account of the process we go through with the NGOs.
Thank you. Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. I've partly answered the question. Can I ask the Minister, is it not non-government organisations that are funded in the majority, and at times of unrest getting aid to people who are suffering due to their own government's failures or unrest is equally as important as what's actually happening politically in the country? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Minister.
Indeed, and as I've already stated, it's in many cases it's a destabilisation that causes a catalyst for a country needing emergency humanitarian support.
Yes, final supplementary. Thank you. Move on to question 6, which Deputy Feltham will ask of the Minister for Housing and Communities. Mr. Feltham.
Thank you. Further to oral question 50, 2023, in response to which the Minister confirmed his intention for there to be formal arrangements for all social housing providers, will the Minister provide an update on his current policy position regarding the establishment of these formal arrangements, as well as a time frame for this action to be completed?
Minister.
So, and thank the Deputy for her question. Last week I published my paper entitled Improving Residential Tenancies in Jersey. The paper sets out my intention to offer tenants and landlords more rights and better protections through the introduction of a new and improved residential tenancy law. One of the sections of the paper deals specifically with social housing provision, explaining why it should be placed on a statutory footing. It also sets out my proposals for areas within social housing that should be in the scope of the new law. I'm committed to engagement with the public on all the areas of residential tenancy reform that I have proposed, which includes an initial 8-week period of public consultation. I want to ensure that states members, tenants, landlords, and islanders can all help shape this work. It would therefore be premature for me to be drawn into making specific commitment on formal arrangements for social housing at this early stage of the consultation process.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy, any supplementary?
Yes, sir. Obviously, as a minister, it is the minister's role to lead on policy. So what is the minister's preferred policy at this point in time?
Minister.
So thank you, Deputy, for a further question. My preferred policy right now is to try and align, at the moment, is to get social housing provision back into the scope of our new law. And what's become very apparent is that we need to, so I'm trying to find my note on this, we need to get consistency across how we look after our social housing provision. That is outside, well, inclusive of Andium, but as has been highlighted in recent events with the housing trusts. And that is one of my big concerns, that we need this overarching law which encompasses both private and social sector housing. And obviously I welcome the Deputy's engagement and feedback in the White Paper debate and our in-committee debate on the 3rd or 4th of May coming up.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Mezek.
Could the Minister explain what his understanding of the problems are that lead him to suggest that there ought to be formal arrangements for all social housing providers? And could he explain what kinds of formal arrangements he would be considering?
So thank the Deputy for his question. I think we've laid out a significant number of issues within the White Paper. I don't want to start prejudicing a debate which is upcoming with some views and opinions. I really want to wait for our 8-week period of consultation and then come out with some indications from the feedback that we get as to how we update that law. I think what the Deputy will know, and he stood next to me in the parish hall recently with the Jersey Homes Trust and their tenants, and the issues which they were highlighting in recent times, those reflections are very much put into the new law that we're proposing.
So with respect, that was a non-answer. I did ask him if he could outline what the problems are that he's seeking to resolve. I'm sure he can give us some. And what measures he might anticipate could be used to resolve those problems. That doesn't prejudice anything because he can get feedback and alter those, but you put something out to consult on. So can he explain to us what the problems are and what might be part of the solution to that?
Well, sir, I think one of the clear problems was, as we recognised recently, was the 3-week notice period given to tenants with regard to putting their rents up. And there was not very much that the government or anybody could do about that. We obviously made representation to the Housing Trust and they changed their minds and delayed the increase. So clearly that demonstrated a gap in our laws which needs to be rectified. So there's an example of issues as to what's happening in the social housing provision, which I'm currently unhappy with, and I'm hoping our new law will resolve.
Yes. Deputy Andrews.
Thank you, sir. As a backbencher, I like to see a minister who's actually setting out a directive in terms of policy. So what are the aspirations of the Housing Minister across this term of office in relation to social housing providers? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank the Deputy for his question. My aspiration is to bring together all the various disparate laws which have been in place since 1946 under one new fit-for-purpose law, and that is my great intention. We've never endeavoured before to bring both social housing and private housing under one overarching law. Many attempts have been made by this Assembly to do bits and pieces, and there's been real concern and real failure in that area. And I feel that my purpose right now is to both educate the Assembly about the gaps and the issues, and also for this Assembly to create an opportunity for them for a once in 15-year moment in time to update a law, make it fit for purpose for the 21st century.
Supplementary?
Thank you, sir. The Minister touched on legislation. However, I want to see policies in place. So if he does have policies, what will those policies be?
Thanks. So thanks for the question, Deputy. I would just, are we still in the social housing territory? Because I understand this oral question is to do with the social housing requirement. I think we're moving away from that territory. If you could have some views from the Chair, please.
I think the question is about social housing. That was the question that Deputy Andrews asked you about. The supplementary is about social housing policy, not merely legislation. He wants to know about that.
I mean, social housing policies, I didn't recognise that the Deputy actually used the word social housing in his question. With regard to...
He did in his first question.
He did, okay. So with regard to, I apologise, so with regard to social housing, I think it's to make sure that everybody is on a level footing. We obviously have good controls with regard to our own arm's length organisation in the form of Andium. We don't have such good controls with regard to the other housing trusts. And so what I want is a consistent approach across the whole of the social housing provision.
Thank you. This is Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. I remind Minister, the question said an update on his current policy position. So let me give him some opportunities, sir. Does the Minister believe that there should be a decoupling of social housing rents from the private rental market, given that he is such an advocate of the free market?
Thank you, sir. Thanks, the Deputy, for his question. Clearly, the current policy is around this 80% policy to which the Deputy refers. And I've gone on record as saying this is a really important policy because it actually is the basis to our social housing provision as provided most prominently by Andium Homes. I'm very hesitant to change that without there being some very, very good research as to why that model should be changed. There are obviously support mechanisms in place whereby that anybody who is struggling to pay their rent is topped up by the Social Security Department, and I appreciate seeing a shaking of head that Deputy does not particularly agree with that approach. However, I believe the approach we have is a very successful one. We're seeing Andium Homes deliver hundreds of new homes of a very high standard, and I think we are in an extraordinary position as an island on our social housing provision when compared with many other jurisdictions.
Supplementary, sir?
Yes.
So given that this decoupling will not happen and the Minister is an advocate of the free market, which means that private rents will continue to rise, is he happy and is his policy position to allow social housing rents to continually rise at rates which do put people who are struggling and struggling beyond that whereby they get income support to pay their rent? It's often, sir, it's only a proportion of their rent and they have to find the difference when those things, when their rents rise.
Thank you, sir. Thank the Deputy for his question. My thoughts around that are, one is I've spoken an awful lot about supply and how we, through our actions, give more competition within the rental sector, which will mitigate increases. Clearly, in the white paper which I've laid out, we are endeavouring to surface a number of issues which have been brought to my attention with regard to keeping rental increases within inflationary levels, once a year increases, a housing tribunal, and giving tenants protections in these areas and more security of tenure. So there's an awful lot going in, because if we're talking about an endeavour to control the private sector in some way, shape or form, these are mechanisms which we can use, which can help to mitigate rental increases.
Thank you. Final supplementary, Lou Feltham.
Thank you, sir. I'm not sure how much comfort the tenants of the social housing providers will have taken from the Minister's answers so far. So I'll give him another opportunity. When can they expect to see a formal arrangement between the government and social housing providers so that they can be assured that their homes are going to be fit to live in and that they are not going to come across short notice, high rent increases that are going to put them under an increased amount of stress?
So I thank the Deputy for her question. There is already law drafting proposals in place which are currently going in the background. We are going to have an in-committee debate in the first week of May. We have a consultation period for the next 8 weeks ongoing. After that, my intention is to use that feedback to see what areas of the law, have we got it right, have we missed something, and then bring back to the Assembly by the end of this year a revised new residential tenancy law. And I would like to see, and I would like to reassure islanders out there, that by the first quarter of next year we will have a new fit-for-purpose law which meets the very concerns that the Deputy has mentioned.
Minister. The next question Deputy Mezek will ask of the Chief Minister. Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Will the Chief Minister advise what concerns, if any, have been raised with her either formally or informally, by either ministers or civil servants about the culture and workplace environments in the government offices during her time as Chief Minister?
Chief Minister.
Both public servants and ministerial colleagues have discussions with me about working environment. As I have confirmed in writing to scrutiny, whilst there are no formal investigations at present, there will be informal processes going on. One allegation has been made, which was found on initial review to be both speculative and not factually correct or substantiated. There is another complaint which remains at the stage of informal resolution through mediation. People have different perspectives, and it is important to take time to understand one another and adapt as necessary. This is especially pertinent in working relationships. We are doing this. The State's Employment Board recently undertook a workshop on values and culture within organisations. I think it would be beneficial for others to do so as well, including the Council of Ministers and senior civil servants, and I have made a request to that effect. Culture is always evolving, and I recognise the importance of developing the right working environment.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Thank you, sir. Could the Chief Minister outline the nature of concerns that have been raised to her and what action she's therefore taken to address them, if she's ever found them to be founded concerns, and in what format would she say the greatest concerns that have been expressed to her have been expressed, in what format?
So I'm not the line manager of the officials working in and around me, and therefore they will raise their concerns, I'm sure, through their own channels and with their line manager. The concerns generally that come to me about the working environment tend to be about our responsiveness, about our use of paper, and general working practices. Nothing of any concerning nature.
Sarah, I did ask in my question as to what format those concerns are raised. I guess that can be verbally, in writing, over email. Could she elaborate on that, please, as I did ask?
Apologies, I'd missed that part of the question. Generally, in verbally, sir, I try to have formal and informal catch-ups with as many of my colleagues as I can on a regular basis.
Generally or exclusively?
Well, I think she's...
I don't recall receiving a written email raising any concerns, sir.
Thank you, Chief Minister. Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. Can the Chief Minister confirm if any civil servants have raised through any channels concerns about behaviour of ministers towards them? Thank you, sir.
Chief Minister.
So no, I don't recall any concerns being raised with me directly.
No follow-up.
Deputy Farmer.
I think the Chief Minister might have answered it, but I just want to make sure. Has the Chief Minister received any communication from either fellow ministers, colleagues or senior executives, communication by letter or email, sir, expressing concern about her conduct towards them or others?
Chief Minister.
No, only from one particular person who I've already identified as a difference of opinion to myself.
So, I wonder, sir, that in the interest of transparency, the Chief Minister might be prepared to make such correspondence public.
Sir, if I were to do that, I would also wish to share a note of a meeting that I have had with the same person, which I found to be totally unacceptable and a rather distressing experience.
Thank you. Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. I recall that when the Chief Minister was the chair of the Corporate Services Scrutiny Panel, one of the things that she seemed most concerned about was workplace culture within the Government of Jersey. So could she explain what steps she has taken to alleviate some of those concerns and what changes she has personally made to ensure that that culture is not pervading within her offices?
Thank you, Chief Minister.
So I think I've already talked today about our values-based approach, and one of the first things the States Employment Board did was to adopt the values of the organisation. As I've already outlined today, we've recently conducted a values workshop exploring that, and we found it to be a really useful process. And I've asked for the Council of Ministers to have the same workshop and suggested that it would be valuable for the whole organisation to do the same. Values do help to focus us all and to help us think through our approach to our colleagues and our work. And I think it's something that we would all benefit from, and it's a useful process. So I've already mentioned that I've asked if HR Lounge can come back and do a follow-up report. Their previous reports have been very useful, and of course we're continuing with the rollout of the Be Heard survey later this year.
Thank you. Supplementary?
Thank you, sir. One of those core values is always respectful. Can the Chief Minister give her guarantee that her and all of her ministers are always respectful to the senior staff and any other colleagues that they work with?
So we are a values-based organisation, and we always endeavour to adopt those values.
Final supplementary, Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Could I ask the Chief Minister to confirm whether or not there are any cases right now of senior civil servants who have raised what may be defined either as a complaint or perhaps less than that, just a significant concern about the Chief Minister herself?
Chief Minister.
Sorry, I'm not aware of any concerns being raised about me.
Thank you. We now move to question 8, which Deputy Catherine Curtis will ask of the Minister for Infrastructure. Deputy Curtis.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister provide an update on the progress of his ministerial priority, which reads, working on sustainable transport measures in line with the Sustainable Transport Plan and delivering a sustainable transport roadmap?
Thank you, Deputy. Minister.
Sir, the transport team, I'd like to thank the Deputy for a question, I'm sorry. Yeah, the transport team have already delivered 12 minor projects to improve cycling and pedestrian infrastructure under the Strong Start Active Travel Plan that sits under the Sustainable Transport Policy. In addition, the government has launched behavioural change initiatives such as the Jersey's Love to Ride Challenge, which has been a great success, achieving higher statistics than any region in the UK. So more action is needed, so officers have been collecting data, travel data, evidence and facts from a variety of sources, including desktop studies, parking and bus ticket information, which is being analysed and compiled into a report called the Preferred Strategy, which is due to be published towards the end of June this year. This will need to be accompanied by a bid for funding in the next government plan. And, I don't want to give the Treasury Minister a heart attack, but it's going to be between 10 and 12 million over 3 years. But it's just to say that we really will be looking for more investment, because when I refer to a team in the initial paragraph, it's 1 plus 2 part-time assistants. So progress is not as quick as I would like, and that's basically a funding-related issue, sir.
Supplementary.
Thank you. So could the Minister give some more detail on any progress about walking and cycling routes through town?
These are the issues that are being put into the plan that will be published in June. Hopefully before the end of June, but certainly by the end of June. So.
Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister, given that the bus contract is currently out for tender, is one of the integral parts of that negotiation how it fits into a sustainable transport measures and the sustainable transport plan? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Minister.
It certainly is, and that will also include the, over time, the electrification of the bus fleet, hopefully. And to that end, I had a meeting with the JC yesterday evening at Loch working on the provision of all the charging infrastructure that's going to need to be put in place for that to be achieved. So.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister, does he feel that increases in bus fares recently is congruent with a sustainable transport policy and encouraging people out of private cars and onto public transport? And what is he going to do to try and make it a more affordable and the go-to means of transport for the majority of the island? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Minister.
So that's an acceptable concern, I think. The simple fact is that if you don't raise prices, you have to subsidise it, and it's a very delicate balance that needs to be achieved. So I do understand the desire to keep prices down, but we do live in a real world where inflation at this point in time is particularly high.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Curtis, final supplementary.
Thank you, sir. Will the plans the Minister's mentioned include a priority for the cycle track from the east of the island into town?
So as to whether that can be a priority or not, we could certainly take a look at that, but there are a number of priorities, and there are other areas in the island that where cycling is particularly dangerous. So presumably, well, I will confirm that we'll try and put some prioritisation as a result of that comment.
Thank you, Minister. Question 9, the Constable St Martin will ask of the Chief Minister. Constable St Martin.
Thank you, sir. Further to Ministerial Decision MDCM 2022-539 regarding the Cabinet Office, will the Chief Minister provide an update on the establishment of the office, including which departments are being incorporated into it, and whether any others are still due to be transferred? How many members with oversight for the office were chosen, and the number of staff seconded and recruited to work within the Cabinet Office, including temporary contracts and consultants?
Chief Minister.
Apologies, sir. I have once again lost here we are. The Democratic Accountability PPC Subcommittee reported to the Assembly in February 2022, having invited comments and researched the structure of and support available to ministerial government. The report recommended the establishment of a Cabinet Office, and I have full confidence that PPC undertook a full and proper piece of work. I made clear in the election campaign and when I was standing for the office of Chief Minister that the establishment of the Cabinet Office would form part of my programme. I delivered this aim in the first 100 days of government. There was no further external consultation and I believe I'm probably answering the wrong question. I do apologise. Forgive me. So this is oral question 70. Yes. Excuse me. I'll start again, sir. The Cabinet Office has been formed by bringing together 3 former departments which were led by the Chief Minister, the Office of Chief Executive, the Chief Operating Office and the Department for Strategic Policy, Planning and Performance. The Cabinet Office formally replaced those 3 departments from the 1st of January this year. As confirmed through the adoption of the Government Plan for 2023, the Government Plan Annex details the number of staff who work within each of the service areas within the Cabinet Office. Ministers with political oversight for the administration of the Cabinet Office that have responsibility by virtue of ministerial offices they hold, which are of course confirmed by this Assembly. No separate ministerial structure for the Cabinet Office has been established or is in place.
Yes, supplementary.
Yes, please, sir. Would the Chief Minister be willing to publish a public-facing organogram, which is an organisation chart or similar visual item, to identify how the Cabinet Office works and where its senior office sits across the Government of Jersey?
So I would be happy to identify an organogram. I think we often spend time writing organograms to think about where we're going, but they are useful documents, and I shall find one and share it with the constable.
Thank you, Chief Minister. Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. As part of the reorganisation of the Cabinet Office, it's my understanding that the States Employment Board went through the organisational change process in relation to 3 senior positions. Earlier today, in the Chief Minister's statement, she mentioned that there is likely to be further organisational change. So why, at that point in time, at the formation of the Cabinet Office, was the organisational change process followed, but did not include some of those other more wholesale changes referred to by the Chief Minister earlier? And was the consultation process that happened a good use of time and money, given those larger organisational changes that it appears are planned?
Chief Minister.
The initial work on the Cabinet Office was part of our 100-day plan. It was done at pace, and yes, I do think that that time was well spent. Of course, any organisation is constantly evolving, particularly one of the size that ours is. And now, having had time to further reflect and consider and discuss with the Chief Executive how best we can operate to serve the public and deliver on our mandate and our agenda, I think that there is some further work to do, and that is being done in the context now of the feedback from the Chief Executive and the group that we have talked about already, who are considering the best possible future for the organisation, and it's good working.
Supplementary.
Yes, sir. My understanding, earlier in the questions, the Chief Minister referred to the CEO having 13 direct reports and that number potentially needing to be reduced. Can she confirm that my understanding is correct, that the recent organisational change within the Cabinet Office and the instigation of 2 Assistant Chief Executive Officers actually did resolve that issue and did reduce already the number of direct reports to the Chief Executive Officer?
As the chair of the Public Accounts Committee, I'm sure that the Deputy will relish the opportunity to ask the Chief Executive about that directly. It is my understanding, through feedback from the Chief Executive, that the creation of the 2 Assistant Chief Executives has not fully ameliorated the number of direct reports.
Thank you, Chief Minister. Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. With respect to the selection of the members with oversight for the office, note that the Chief Minister's statement said, referred to the need for the forensic, the need for a forensic evidence-based, challenging and daring thought leadership. And given the Chief Minister's expressed desire for collaboration, with respect to the selection of the members that we do have been advertised as on government's website as being members of the Cabinet Office, could she please explain how she chose these particular members with the qualities of forensic evidence-based, challenging and daring thought leadership, and comment on the coincidence that they all happen to be members of the Better Way Coalition, except Constable, the Constable of St John, who was involved in one of her, as a campaign manager for one of her previous senatorial election campaign.
Thank you. Chief Minister.
I thank the Deputy for the question. Sir, the Deputy will perhaps recall that at the beginning of this term of office, ministers were selected and then assistant ministers were also appointed to their various roles. They were all chosen through discussion with ministers and also an understanding of their particular priorities and For example, Deputy Stevenson, sitting in front of me, has a portfolio that includes communications. Of course, that is an area of particular professional expertise of hers, and she is rightly a fitting person for that role, and gives and contributes greatly to all of the aspects of her portfolio, which crosses into economic development, where she is an assistant minister, and also now into infrastructure, joining up some of the dots and helping to make a greater coherence of a cross-cutting nature of policy that we see. So I do believe, and I understand that members have drawn a conclusion with regard to the pictorial reference on the website of the Cabinet Office ministers. But I just remind members that these appointments were made prior to the Cabinet Office being formed, and they are simply a consequence of those appointments that were made in the early days of this government, and it is actually something of a coincidence. There is also another member of the Better Way group, the Constable of St Peter, and he does not figure in that picture because his expertise and interests lie within the Education and Children Department and also the Treasury, where he is a very effective Assistant Minister.
Thank you. Supplementary?
Yes, thank you to the Chief Minister for her response so far. So in order for me to understand this coincidence, could the Chief Minister please explain how exactly the particular ministerial posts were identified that led to these particular ministers and assistant members being members of the Cabinet Office, and whether this was discussed and agreed within the Council of Ministers in advocating these particular members' qualities of forensic, evidence-based, challenging and daring thought leadership above the other ministers and assistant ministers in the Council of Ministers.
Sir, I do think I have already elaborated quite sufficiently on the many qualities. I could, of course, direct the deputy to the deputy sitting to my right, who has a level of experience in IT and a level of understanding of data that is far superior to mine, and therefore he was selected for his understanding and interest. And I think both he and the Constable of St John are extremely effective in working with colleagues in that sphere of interest, and I'm really grateful to them both for their hard and diligent work. Sir, we all do our best to match people with their expertise and their interests to the right roles, and I believe we've been effective in doing that.
Thank you, Chief Minister.
Just a point of clarification, please, because my question about the whether the Council of Ministers, it had been discussed with the Council of Ministers. Sorry, sir. My question whether this selection had been discussed with the Council of Ministers and whether it had been approved hasn't been answered.
Yes. Do you want to respond to that particular question about part of the question you were asked? Chief Minister.
So there were many conversations had at the time. I would imagine that it was more of a verbal and iterative process done at some pace.
Yes. Final supplementary, Conatap?
Yes, please. I look forward to seeing a clear organisational chart of how the Cabinet Office works and where it sits, and I wondered if the Chief Minister would have a time frame for when that will be delivered. Thank you.
Chief Minister.
I don't currently have an exact time frame, but I hope that we will be able to deliver an organogram in pretty short order to the chair of PPC. And of course, though, I say that with the caveat that this may be under further work as we progress forwards with the interim role and a review of how best the organisation can function.
Chief Minister. Question 10, Deputy Scott will ask of the Chairman of the States Employment Board. Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. Further to paragraph 24 of the report of the Controller and Auditor General entitled States Employment Board Follow-up September 2022, will the Chair advise how the States Employment Board intends to address concerns regarding the lack of independence of the Group Director for People and Corporate Services as an advisor to the Board?
Thank you, Deputy Chief Minister.
Sir, the Vice Chair is going to answer this question.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for the question. So, as set out in the government's legislative programme, which was published in October 2022, I expect to bring forward amendments to the Employment of State of Jersey Employees Jersey Law 2005 later this year. As part of this project, the law is being reviewed to ensure the constitution and role of the State Employment Board is underpinned by a modern legislative base. This includes consideration of the statutory role of officials and advisors who support the State Employment Board to carry out its functions. It should be noted that Article 6A of the law already allows SEB to appoint up to 2 independent advisors to support our work.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Yes, sir. Could the Vice Chair please outline the nature of these amendments and to the extent to which consideration has been given to potential outsourcing of elements of management to the private sector in order to rapidly to bring up the standard of the culture to professional standards outside the public sector?
Thank you, Deputy.
So we already have one independent advisor to the State Employment Board, and we've identified the criteria to appoint a second one as we're able to. The State Employment Board have got a workshop on the 4th of May where we'll be looking at the detail on what other requirements we need in terms of changes to the legislation.
Thank you. Yes, Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. In his answer, the Vice Chair referred to having an independent advisor already in place. Could he give us some more information about the skills and also the tasks that have been given to that particular independent advisor?
Thanks, sir. The independent advisor is a chartered director, is a HR professional, is on a number of boards, including a large public health trust, and has provided very valuable independent advice to the State Employment Board, both during its meetings and outside of its meetings when it's been requested.
Supplementary.
Thank you, sir. And what kind of could the Vice Chair let us know what kind of contract that independent advisor is on and what type of cost that might be coming at?
I don't have that detail to hand, sir, but I'm more than happy to provide the Deputy and members that detail. The second post that we're looking for somebody with locally based and with legal experience in HR matters. Thank you.
Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Vice Chair, do those advisors advise on pay awards? Thank you, sir.
So the advisor advises the State Employment Board as and when necessary when we're discussing different matters, and that may include pay. It includes a whole range of subjects.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Assistant, the Deputy of the SEB, sorry, so I'm very confusing all these titles, whether the advisor advised on the current pay awards? Thank you, sir.
So the current pay awards, which we're going through at the moment, are part of the government plan, which was agreed by this Assembly, and we will be talking to the independent advisor as and when necessary on that matter.
Thank you. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will there be a requirement for the eventual successful candidate to be personally sympathetic with the policies of the Better Way Group?
So I'm not sure which candidate the deputy is referring to.
I'm talking about the person who's, unless I've misunderstood the thread of the question, so the person who's eventually appointed to this new HR position.
Yes, that's the question that you're being asked.
Sir, the requirements for the person will be down to their professional skills, sir, not any political leanings. Thank you.
Thank you.
So do I get a supplementary, or have I had it?
Well, I'm not sure, so you're going to have one.
Thank you, sir. The reason I ask that, there's a requirement at a certain level in the civil service which requires civil servants to be apolitical. So, for example, a member of a political party such as the Jersey Alliance, the Jersey Liberal Conservatives or Reform Jersey wouldn't be able to be a member of those parties. But where we have a grouping of ministers who aren't an official party, it's conceivable that an individual may well be completely aligned with that grouping with no requirement to declare an interest. What mechanisms are there in place at the Better Way Cabinet to make sure that they're not just recruiting from within their own ranks effectively?
So I'm not well placed to answer that question because I'm not part of a Better Way group. Sir, any employee over a certain level, as the deputy's alluded to, has got specific requirements when it comes down to political engagement. The advisor would not be an employee but would be a consultant. Thank you, sir.
Yes, Deputy Scott, final supplementary.
Thank you, sir. Could the Vice Chair please confirm that the current independent advisor has been in place for a number of years, has a background in the public sector and was in place at the time of the departure of the former CEO in circumstances that were unsatisfactory and cost the public a certain amount of money? And if so, whether there has been any consideration of replacing that independent advisor?
Sir, the independent advisor has been an advisor for a number of years. Their background is in the railways, HR within the railways, and as I mentioned earlier, as well as health and other industries. I do not know what advice the independent advisor gave in relation to the former chief executive's departure. All I can say, sir, is that I'm very, very impressed with our current independent advisor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Question 11, Deputy Ward will ask of the Chair of the States Employment Board. Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, Sir. May I ask the Chair, will the Chair of the States Employment Board state when the Board made an additional pay offer to the teachers and lecturers following their rejection of the original offer? Thank you, sir.
Chief Minister?
This is again for the Vice Chair.
Yes, Vice Chair.
Thank you, sir. Sir, the two teaching trade unions received a formal offer of 7.9% fully consolidated pay increase by letter on the 3rd of April. We have not yet received notification of the ballot arrangements for the formal offer from either of the two unions, which we requested in our letter, so we don't know if they've rejected or not. So prior to the formal letter, there were several discussions between the negotiating team and representatives, setting out each other's positions. This was followed up by a letter on the 10th of January, but that was not a formal offer. The first formal offer made to the unions was on the 3rd of April.
Supplementary?
Yep, thank you, sir. When is the Vice Chair, got that right this time, sir, when is the Vice Chair expecting to enter direct negotiations with the unions, the teachers' representatives, in order that we might move forward this situation? Thank you, sir.
So the State Employment Board have met with all of the trade unions from all of the representative bodies of our employees and plan to do so, sir, on a regular basis. That does not include discussions around pay. We did, however, meet as a State Employment Board last week, and we've requested that the negotiating team make contact again with the union officials, and we expect an update on Friday.
Thank you. Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. In his answer to the previous question, the Vice Chair made a reference to pay awards having been, I think, part of the government plan process. So can he confirm if indeed the negotiating team does have any flexibility to negotiate?
Sir, the negotiating team does have flexibility to negotiate within the envelope of the monies that have been voted for in the government plan. So therefore, they've got the flexibility. They've also got the flexibility to look at different things, which may include holidays, may include sick leave, etc. So there is flexibility for the team. We have to balance various competing pressures, sir. We consider the 7.9 increase to be a fair offer and note that it's been accepted by teaching assistants, mealtime assistants and other professions who work alongside teachers, and we maintain that it's a fair offer.
Thank you. Supplementary?
Thank you, sir. A few years ago, some of the negotiations revolved around gain sharing. Can the Vice Chair let us know whether gain sharing is going to be part of those negotiations or not?
Thank you, sir. So when we recently met the teachers' unions, not to talk about pay, but to talk about other things, we discovered that there had been agreement in 2019 to look at the terms and conditions. So these date back to 2013, and the State Employment Board have committed that this work must start in this school term for that work to be done. That may or may not include gain sharing. I would need to check.
Deputy Rob Ward, final supplementary.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Vice Chair whether, given that the negotiators obviously cannot negotiate extra money without taking it out of budgets, is that genuinely an ability to negotiate pay with the teaching unions, or is this just another smokescreen, and has happened so many times in previous years with iterations such as gain share and that terrible phrase within the pay envelope? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy.
Sir, I should have emphasised the words of the Education Minister earlier, how we value our teachers and how in our meetings we have learnt about some of the pressures that they face. So within that envelope, the negotiating team and the negotiators have got the ability to award different levels to different members of the teams. And therefore, some staff could have received up to 12%, with others are receiving around 6%. It's worth noting, sir, that it is about a whole package that our employees receive, and teachers actually still benefit from a final salary pension scheme, which was removed from other professions and also removed from teaching in the UK. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin Tarb. Question 12, Deputy Feltham will ask of the Minister for Social Security. Deputy Feltham.
Thank you. Further to the comments of the Council of Ministers on the Pension Plus scheme, P 2022, will the Minister provide an update on her current policy position regarding the extension of eligibility for the Pension Plus scheme to more pensioners, as well as a time frame for the action to be completed?
Thank you, sir. I thank the Deputy for her question. The comments referred to in the question were published before the cost of living mini-budget was approved by the Assembly last year. At the time, I made a commitment to including a review of pensioner benefits in my 2023 ministerial plan. That commitment has been upheld, and I have completed my initial review of benefits to identify specific areas for further work. These include a detailed review of the treatment of income and assets within Pension Plus and other pension benefit schemes, and this will be undertaken as soon as possible, and it's a priority area for 2023. This work is likely to increase the number of pensioners who qualify for the Pension Plus benefit.
Thank you, Minister. Supplementary.
Yes, thank you, sir. I don't think I actually heard a policy there, so could I ask for the Minister to confirm what her own policy position is, given that she is providing the political leadership in this area?
Minister.
I thought I possibly had done, sir. I do want to increase the number of pensioners who can qualify for Pension Plus, and that is my policy. We need to work out how we do that and critically how we fund it. Thank you. But my policy is to increase availability of this benefit to pensioners.
Thank you. Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. I understood at the time that I withdrew the proposition that the proposed changes were likely to be ready around July 2023. If I'm not mistaken, I'm happy to be corrected. I just wondered if the Minister could confirm exactly when she expects to see changes to the Pension Plus policy, should there be the funds to happen.
Thank you. Minister.
I would certainly hope that July 2023 is achievable. I have a small team of policy officers. I have given them some quite tight timescales across the board, and there are a number of areas that we do need to look at, but pensioner benefits is certainly a priority, particularly in light of the recent press on the poverty report in Jersey and the impact on low-income pensioners. So Pension Plus is certainly a priority, and I would hope that it will be, whatever amendments we make, will be in place by July at the very latest. Thank you.
Minister, supplementary.
No, thank you, sir.
And Deputy Feltham, final supplementary.
Thank you, sir. Can I get some clarity from the Minister about who exactly she wishes to extend Pension Plus to, and what direction she has given to officers when they are undertaking their reviews?
Minister.
Well, there is a pensioner group and there is a group of low-income pensioners, and those are the ones we are particularly focused on. Our initial stages will be to consider things like the asset disregards and the income levels, and the asset disregard, I believe, is £30,000, although I think I got that wrong last time. But we are certainly looking at the asset disregard and income levels to make sure that pensioners who do not currently qualify will be brought into the net for Pension Plus.
Thank you, Minister. Question 13, Deputy Feltham will ask of the Chief Minister. Deputy Farnham will ask of the Chief Minister. Deputy Farnham.
Thank you, sir. Following the resignation of the Chief Executive Officer, will the Chief Minister state whether any more senior civil service posts are currently in question or under consideration by the Chief Minister, the Council of Ministers, or the State's Employment Board, sir? And if so, how many, sir? And just for the avoidance of doubt, when I say following the resignation of the Chief Executive Officer, I'm referring to all senior civil service staff, sir, including health staff. Thank you.
Chief Minister.
So the structure of the civil service and the roles within it are continually evolving and adapting to changing circumstances. I think it is important to reassure the public service that we are keen to maintain stability, so no significant changes are planned, and there will be no root and branch review covering the whole organisation. As members know, work is ongoing at present to review the future structure of the Chief Executive's role to ensure it is properly defined and supported to enable the new post holder to succeed. This will undoubtedly lead to some changes within senior roles. Any changes will be announced carefully and after appropriate consultation with relevant colleagues.
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Chief Minister for that, and just ask, sir, that she would keep members updated of any significant changes that may come her way, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Minister.
If I'm required to respond, I thank the Deputy for his question. Of course, he will appreciate that employment matters are confidential and we have a duty of care to our employees.
Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. With respect to the duty of confidentiality, and also with reference to the Chief Minister's response to my written question 138, in which she informed that she, after receiving the resignation of the Chief Executive Officer, that she sought for advice to proceed from the Chief People and Transformation Officer, formerly Group Director for People and Corporate Services, who provided his advice on return from leave on 21st March 2023. Could she please just confirm that she's not waiting for him to come back from another leave before announcing any other resignations?
Sir, I saw the officer in question just this morning, and so I can confirm that he is currently in the island.
Supplementary?
Yes, sir. And could you please advise whether there might be any alternative advisors in government or as independent advisors to the SEB who might substitute for this officer should he be away?
Chief Minister?
Well, there'll be a structure within that particular department, sir, but I'm not quite sure what the deputy is angling at.
Do you want to clarify your question?
Yes, sir. I'm just exploring the possibility, the support that the Chief Minister might have in terms of advisors when announcing resignations as an alternative to the Group Director.
Do you want to respond to that, Chief Minister?
Despite popular belief, there is actually a relatively limited resource and therefore the advice was required from a particular person and that's simply all I can say, although I would like to say how pleased I am to work with other people working in that section of the organisation through the States Employment Board, and we hold them in the highest regard.
Chief Minister. Question 14, the Connotab of St Martin will ask of the Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. Will the Chief Minister explain what external consultation has been undertaken in relation to the development of the Cabinet Office, including any consultation with islanders, and advise which other jurisdictions, if any, have been considered or contacted to understand their respective ways of working?
Thank you, Connotab. Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir, and apologies for some repetition. I now understand that the oral questions don't run in numerical order in the order paper, which is why I've been somewhat confused at times today.
Well, I think they do. But,
No, they don't. According to my record, but anyway, so I'll give my answer. The Democratic and Accountability Subcommittee of PPC reported to the Assembly in February last year, having invited comments and researched the structure of and support available to ministerial government. The report recommended the establishment of a Cabinet Office, and I have full confidence that PPC undertook a full and proper piece of work. I made clear in the election campaign and when I was standing for the office of Chief Minister that the establishment of a Cabinet Office would form part of my programme. I delivered this aim in the first 100 days of government. There was no further external consultation. I'm not aware that there would be for such an administrative restructure, and the proposals were then developed in line with the recommendations of the subcommittee, albeit with some modifications due to certain legislative constraints. As ministers, we of course regularly engage with islanders, including at Council of Ministers meetings, which we hold on a monthly basis now in the parishes.
Supplementary?
No, thank you, sir.
Deputy Scott.
Sorry, I was asking, intending to ask supplementary to the question, but understand if the Constable hasn't, I don't have the right to ask a supplemental.
You can ask a question.
Oh, I can. Thank you very much. Could I please just ask the Chief Minister, in terms of the structure of the Cabinet Office, how it's the States members who are members of it are accountable to the Council of Ministers themselves?
Chief Minister.
And I do agree with the Deputy that if a supplementary question isn't put, then generally there isn't a follow-up from other members of the Assembly. But I would endeavour to answer the Deputy's question. I think it was a question about accountability to the whole Council of Ministers officials are accountable to myself as the Chief Minister. I think that would probably be the simplest way to understand it. They have a structure within themselves, and then that through the Chief Executive, who is accountable to the Council of Ministers as a whole.
Supplementary?
Yes, if I could just clarify, I'm talking about political accountability and the extent to which the ministers and assistant ministers in the Cabinet Office are overseen or account for their decisions in the Cabinet Office to the Council of Ministers as a larger body.
Yes, Chief Minister.
Yes, well, we are all here to hold each other to account, and but generally ministerial work is conducted through that particular ministry, and items are raised to the Council of Ministers when there are cross-cutting matters.
Thank you. The next question Deputy Mezek will ask of the Chief Minister. Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Will the Chief Minister explain in what ways she considers the establishment of the new Cabinet Office to have been a success, whether she has any plans to change it in the future, and if so, what these plans are?
Thank you, Chief Minister.
So we've achieved our objective of creating a Cabinet Office, and we did it quickly within our first 100 days. This was an organisational change to improve accountability and coordination at the centre of government, which it has done. As announced last August, the Cabinet Office was formed through merging the former Chief Operating Office, Office of the Chief Executive, and the Department for Strategic Policy Planning and Performance. This practical step has achieved greater coherence and enabled us to put in place the new management structures quickly. We will now start to undertake the next stage, which is to look at how we can best focus the Cabinet Office on delivering improved departmental support and advice to the Council of Ministers in the most effective way. As part of this, we will ensure that ministerial decision-making accords with the structures set out in the States of Jersey law, namely through the Council of Ministers or through individual ministers and their assistants. We have not and will not be establishing any separate political decision-making structures grouped around the Cabinet Office.
Supplementary?
Thank you, sir. The Chief Minister has created a Cabinet Office, but she hasn't created the Cabinet Office that was proposed in the PPC subcommittee, in whose reports they say if a Cabinet Office is established, the head of the Cabinet Office could be responsible for providing advice to the Council of Ministers and the Chief Executive to account to them for delivery policy initiatives. That sounds like two separate roles fulfilling two separate functions, whereas the Cabinet Office she's created has one person still doing both of those. So can the Chief Minister confirm that we will imminently hear from her the intention to establish a proper head of Cabinet Office, a Cabinet Secretary or whatever you want to call them, as envisaged in that report?
So I think we've already been over this ground once today, and in my answer to the Deputy previously, I talked about the potential for a Cabinet Secretary, and I referred to the fact that this is part of the review. But under the current structure, we have been working within the structure that was existing, one that we, of course, inherited when we assumed office, and all of those post holders who were legally in the roles that they had been employed to do at the time.
Thank you. Deputy Sadia.
Thanks, sir. So is there a model, either somewhere around the Commonwealth, on which the Chief Minister would hold up as an ideal to model the Jersey Cabinet Office on? And indeed, although it wasn't necessarily her conception as an idea, could she clarify what she thinks Jersey's current manifestation of the Cabinet Office is most closely aligned to in terms of other executives around the world?
Minister.
Thank you. So I do think that our Cabinet Office, and I've made it quite clear, is a work in progress at the moment. We have made our best steps and first endeavours to meet the recommendations of the democratic accountability subgroup. When we look across the world, of course, we are not unique, but we are a complex organisation, as I've already said today. And there are other models to look to. Of course, we often look to Westminster, but then we can equally look to other small island nations for our inspiration, and we endeavour to do so. And along with colleagues, we have been reaching out to others who may be able to assist us in that.
So is there a tension between having somebody, a non-politician officer on the Cabinet Office who can either be completely apolitical but nonetheless needs to effectively do the bidding of ministers, versus a different model where that officer may be politically partisan towards and sympathetic towards what's going on in terms of the policy direction of government? What are the options that are available and the tensions that the Minister sees?
Apologies. The British civil service tradition generally tends to be one that civil servants are not partisan, and they don't change as government changes. However, of course, there are other structures where a full change can be seen, and we see that in the US in particular, don't we? Therefore, as part of the British system, I would imagine that that is the structure that we would first and foremost look to.
Thank you, sir. And given that the Cabinet Office is in a process of implementation, as indicated earlier, would the Chief Minister confirm who actually is responsible for what was the old M&D department, and is she satisfied that security arrangements are properly in place?
Chief Minister.
Thank you for the question, Constable. Modernisation and digital is currently sitting in the responsibility of the Treasurer as an Assistant Chief Executive. I think, despite... apologies. I'm perhaps getting my acronyms incorrect, and that's now ITS, the Integrated Technology Systems Project that sits there. And I'm ably supported politically by both the Constable of St John and Deputy Alex Curtis, who have taken a ministerial role in that area.
Supplementary?
I thank the Chief Minister for her answer. Thank you.
Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. Could the Chief Minister explain her definition of success in terms of delivering the Cabinet Office, other than to say she has delivered it?
Well, I talked earlier, sir, about delivering a functioning organisation that can meet political mandates and deliver on the agenda of the day for the public. And essentially, that is why we're all here, sir, to respond to the public's requirements. The public at the elections talked about accountability. They also talked about efficiency. And through doing this process, we hope to deliver a service that is best placed to meet those requirements that the public have demanded. And that's what we're really focused upon doing.
Supplementary?
Yes, sir. So could I please now ask, now that she's delivered the Cabinet Office, how has delivery of these things changed?
Minister.
I think through the course of this morning, we have identified that this is a work in progress. We have made some movements and there's still work to be done.
Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. From what we know of the Cabinet Office, it sounds increasingly similar to the old department of the Chief Minister, or Chief Minister's department, I think, as it was. Can the Chief Minister confirm whether this is just a rollback to the previous iteration, or whether this is a carefully designed department that has been put together in such a way to resolve certain issues, and if so, what is being resolved?
Chief Minister.
I think as structures evolve and change, they can sometimes look like past structures because, of course, there's a limited amount of room for manoeuvre, and people often come in with new ideas, and those who perhaps have a longer corporate memory say, yes, we saw that in the last decade or the one before that. And so there will always be some element of that and some reflection upon what has been. But of course, we're focused on looking forward, trying to find the best fit so that we can deliver the best possible services in the most efficient way that will benefit islanders, because ultimately that's why we're all here today, and we hope that we will move forward and serve islanders to the best of our ability.
Supplementary?
Thank you, sir. Can the Chief Minister explain to us what is so efficient about this particular structure?
Chief Minister.
Well, it has been simplified somewhat, and bringing a number of delivery points into the same structure. That has been a process, and as I've already stated today, it is a process that will now continue following recent events.
Yes, Deputy Andrews.
Thank you, sir. It seems to me, within a 100-day period, if you're planning to then implement a Cabinet Office, there potentially could be some mistakes that could be made. Most often, when there is a decision that will be taken, governments will have more time to actually implement things and to actually review that process as they go along. So does the Minister agree that potentially there could be some inefficiencies that later potentially could be addressed due to the time frame of 100-day plan of implementation? Thank you.
Chief Minister.
Sir, I think I've made it quite clear today that some change has been rolled out and delivered in short order. Other changes will take a longer time and further consideration. And that is the process that we are working to. And we will endeavour at every point to make our most efficient and best decisions with what we are dealing with at the particular time. Progress and delivery of the best outcomes for islanders is at the heart of that, and on every occasion.
Supplementary? No. Final supplementary. Deputy Mozak.
Thank you, sir. Can the Chief Minister explain exactly in what way accountability has been improved tangibly by this restructure, especially given that the functions of policy making and delivery on policy are still held by the same office, when the proposal originally made for a Cabinet Office was deliberately to split them so that accountability could be enhanced?
When considering accountability, sir, we generally think about the one minister, one department structure that was agreed by the former Assembly, and that is something that we are still working towards achieving, and we have not forgotten about it. The question about policy and accountability for that is ultimately a political place, because we as politicians are accountable to the public for delivering upon our policies, and of course that moment is held at the ballot box with every member of the community who turns out to vote.
Question 16, the last question on this part of the order paper. Deputy Andrews will ask of the Minister for Social Security. Deputy Andrews.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise whether she is considering the abolition of the social security cap in order to meet increased social expenditure costs due to the island's ageing population, and if not, why not?
Thank you. Minister.
Thank you, sir. I thank the Deputy for his question. A full actuarial review of the social security funds has been undertaken over the last few months. The final report will be published within the next few weeks. The report considers the forecast behaviour and requirements on the fund over the next 60 years. It takes full account of the impact of the ageing population on pension and other benefit costs. Once the report has been finalised and published, I will then be considering any advice provided by the actuaries and whether any structural changes are needed to the fund or the level of contributions. What I would say now is that I have seen some high-level findings from the actuarial report, which indicates that the Social Security Fund is currently in a very strong position, but I don't want to say more until the final report is published and that information can be presented in its full context. Thank you.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Thank you, sir. It seems to be very unfair when we are looking at personal incomes and seeing how regressive some of the measures are, especially on those who are higher earners. And actually, really it should be the case, and I hope the Minister is in agreement with me, that everybody should be paying a proportionate amount of social security contributions. Would you not agree, sir? Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you. So my understanding is that government should not raise more money than it needs. And as far as the Social Security Fund is concerned, the Social Security Fund pays pensions and other contributed benefits, and that fund has money to pay all those benefits at present. There is no need for the benefits to be increased. There are lots of academic arguments about contribution levels and taxes, but at the moment there is no need to increase the money going into this fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Can the Minister attempt to put forward a moral case for why the richer you are in Jersey, the lower effective rate of social security contributions will be paid in your name?
Minister.
Sir, again, I believe this is this relates to how we view both our tax system and our contribution system. If we wish to tax the rich more, that is a matter for income tax and other taxes. Contribution is a different matter. It's not. I don't think it is unfair that no matter how much you put in, that the social security system works basically on the basis that everybody puts the same amount in and everybody gets the same amount back. If you're wealthy, paying more money in does not mean that you get any more out. Everybody gets the same pension and the same benefits, and that's why it is a fair system across the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Yes, sir, but of course what we've just been given is an inaccurate description, because if you are a lower earner, as an absolute amount, you will pay a less amount, but may still get the same amount more as somebody who earns more. It's a case of from each according to their ability to each according to their need, unless you're super rich. So I would ask the Minister if she would be prepared to acknowledge that that impact of the social security cap is regressive as a matter of definition.
Minister.
I don't think it's quite as straightforward as the deputy suggests, sir. People on there are greater contributions are paid by higher earners. Self-employed people pay more. Over 60 self-employed earners pay more on their earnings. The employers of the wealthy pay additional contributions above the standard earnings limit. So the people who earn more do effectively contribute more. Those who earn less and do not, therefore, because of their low earnings, have a full contribution record, are supported through the state's grants and other investments into that fund. The whole theory of the fund is to give everybody the same pension at the end, and I remain of the view that if you want to tax people and extract more money from the wealthy, the appropriate way to do it is through the tax system and not through social security contributions. And again, in any event, we have no need at present, I believe, to increase the amounts of contributions going into the fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Andrews, final supplementary? No. That completes those questions. We now move to questions to ministers without notice, and the first period of questions are questions to the Minister for Children and Education, and the first question is from Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. In 2016, the States Assembly agreed to cut the starting salary of teachers in public schools by £8,000. Does the Minister see any link between this and the failure to retain teachers long-term in Jersey? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Minister.
Thank you for Deputy for his question. I'm not sure what happened in 2016, as I didn't look into the data. But yesterday I have received the update about teachers' attrition in Jersey. So the teacher saturation is low, with 36 teachers having left in the 12 months to the end of March 23, and this is 4.2% of teacher workforce of 855. Compared to general numbers in the states of Jersey employment, it's 8.83. So we are, if you are looking into the numbers, this is where we are standing. I don't know what's happened in 2006.
Supplementary.
Thank you, sir. The issue is around the fact that by cutting starting salaries in 2016, the beneficial starting rate was lost, and therefore teachers may arrive here in their early years, do a couple of years, and then leave the profession and go back to the UK where it's just as beneficial, even with their final salary pension, which is such an essential part of terms and conditions. Would the Minister agree that this is now having an effect because we are not retaining teachers long term, and this transient workforce is not good for young people? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Minister.
I always like to look into the numbers. I didn't have a numbers about how long we retain teachers. I need to look into this and to come back with answer which will be evidence-based.
Deputy Catherine Curtis.
Thank you, sir. Bearing in mind the final year of a degree course has just been cancelled by University College Jersey, how will the Minister address any concerns from students and potential students about the reliability of degree provision?
Minister.
I really thank you, Deputy, for her question, because we are reviewing higher education provision on the island because we realized that market demand changed quickly. If we are talking about this specific course, it was a top-up BA, a Business and Management degree that do start in September 23, and it has been cancelled. It has been cancelled because most of the students from first 2 years decided to accept employers' offers that they can continue and do top-ups through the employment. All the students were cancelled from the start of the academic year, and they've been told about the risk of top-up year if they will not be signed in. In March 23, we found only 2 people who would like to continue, and each student has been offered tutorial discussion. They don't need to do new exams. The course is running with the Plymouth University, and if they agree, they don't need to apply through the UCAS again, and they can do this top-up. It's unfortunately happened, but as the Deputy can understand, if only 2 people out of all course would like to do the top-up one, it's something very difficult to arrange, and it is an option.
Supplementary.
Thank you. I mean, just for 1 or 2 people, it's still a huge impact and devastating for them. And I would have thought it's possible for more to be done online, perhaps. Where a course is cancelled partway through, can additional support be provided to help the student complete the qualification they set out to achieve, which may need to be on island?
Minister.
This is the conversation that we are having. This is what I found. What's important to say that since I've been elected into the role, we are developing, and it's still under process of the business high-level entrepreneurship, which people can work and to do the top-ups. We're also looking into the hybrid courses with the universities, which is online, offline, couple days, partly time go to be out the space. But because it's taken a year from what I've learned to got full academic recognition, and we're in intense conversations with several universities, this is my intention to offer the option of align online and part-time in the universities.
Deputy Coles.
Thank you, sir. Given that the minimum requirement for a school counsellor is a level 4 in therapeutic counselling, and there is actually no requirement for a supplementary qualification in with working for children and young people, does the Minister agree that a school counsellor should be working towards a qualification for working with children and young people?
Minister.
It's a very good question, and thank you for Deputy for his question. I believe that during the continuing professional development, these type of courses are fit, because nobody can work at school without having different courses being taken and been trained to work with children. But again, I really thank you for the question, and I will double check the credential.
Supplementary?
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister then support a compulsory requirement for all current employed school counsellors to undertake a CPD development module in working with children and young people?
I agree that for each employer needs to be a route for the professional development, because everyone, including us, going to different courses to develop our skills. What it's important for me to do, as you imagine, with 2,500 employees with SIPES, I don't know exact each qualification and exact each diploma that people need to do. There are so many things that I would like this to check.
Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. To return back to UCJ courses, is it not the fact that with a very small number of students are currently affected, and the actual obstacle is purely funding for those few students? And if additional funding was being made for a couple of students to complete in whatever way they can, then the longer term problem can be dealt with later on. But it's just the need for additional funding. So can I ask the Minister if that's the case?
I'm not sure if it's additional funding, because I didn't go in in details of that particular two people who would like to do the top-ups, and I'm not sure if it's because of the funding or because they cannot leave the island, or because we need to find a way to offer the Plymouth top-up degree forward. So I cannot say it's purely because the funding, and we need to see. I just came back from holiday. This is landed on my desk, and I would see what's the obstacles for them personally, because I'm sure there are personal circumstances, not necessarily down to the.
Yes, so perhaps I can help. The situation, without being too much away, I suppose, the situation is the fact that the course cannot be provided with very small numbers, and that's somewhat understandable. But can I ask the Minister, given that we are a small island and we sometimes have small numbers of people trying to complete and improve themselves who may well stay on island and work, is it not worth that small additional investment in a few individuals so that they can stay on island for whatever reason they want to, and then move forward and use their services? Because it's actually a good investment if people stay on this island and use their skills.
Absolutely agree with the Deputy. I do believe small investment into people who would like to stay on the island and will continue to contribute on the island is important, and this is what I was doing and looking on individual cases. Well, several individual cases that came to my attention through this year. So I agree with this. On that particular course, it was a high demand at the beginning for the business courses and BAs, but what's happened that the direct employment actually offering to gain a qualification whilst people employed, and this is what was the main reason for dropping the numbers to sign in to top up. Students prefer to go to the employment, get experience, and get the same qualifications through the employment. And we are looking now how what's the offer needs to be on the island as the market demand changing.
Thank you, Minister. Are there any further questions for this Minister during this period? Yes, Sophie Feltham.
Thank you, sir. Further to the Minister's answer to my written question 102/2023, does the Minister have confidence that the necessary and required policies and guidance documents exist within the Children's Services section of her department, and that they're adequately followed up and adhered to?
Minister.
Thank you for Deputy for her question. Actually, thank you for the written questions, as we had a discussion that we have around 300 different policies, And what I'm doing now, and also follow the engagement with the scrutiny, which was very helpful public hearing that we looked into other policies, not necessarily children services, but within the SIPes. So what we are doing, first of all, I think that all policies needs to be consolidated in one place. I think we don't have it, and this is one of the work streams that's happening. Second, I'm going parts by parts and asking what is the policy, does policy needs to be updated, do we need to have extra training on that policy, and how we measuring implementation. So this is the big work that was prompted by a deputy's question and scrutiny question around all policies within the department, because as you are aware, department is new. Children, young people, education and skills, it was a lot of things came together, and obviously we will find the gaps that we need to address.
Supplementary?
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Minister for her answer to that question. I'm pleased that that piece of work is being undertaken. Could she give us an indicative timeline as to when that should be complete and when we can get some form of assurance that the policies are being accessed and followed by staff and that training is in place?
I cannot give indicative time for all 300 plus policies that I have within the department, but the policies that, and I'm serious, kind of, there is a limitation that I'll be able to do, but definitely by the next public hearing, the policies that were raised raised by the scrutiny, we will look at, and the policies which was raised by the deputy, I hope within the next months we know where we are at and what needs to be done.
Thank you, Minister. If there are no further questions for this Minister, then we move on to the second period of questions for the Minister for Economic Development, Tourism, Sport and Culture. And the first question is from Deputy Rob.
Sir, I wonder if we should propose the adjournment as there's only 5 minutes.
Yes, I didn't take a note of all those names. Do people want to press their buttons again briefly so I know who to call this afternoon? There are some other people as well.
Sir, I was making the same proposal.
Oh, were you? Right. The adjournment is proposed and seconded. Anyone wish to speak on the proposition that we adjourn? No. The Assembly adjourned until 2:15.